here today. Yay!
Yay.
The whole crew.
Whole crew. And we're here to talk about The Acolyte, episode 7, the penultimate episode of this season. Just finished it. And should we do the initial thoughts again?
Yeah.
Run down and maybe like try to be as brief as possible. Yes? Okay, let's start with Justin.
Why me?
Because you're the sound person.
Maybe we should do alphabetical.
Because you're of sound mind.
Alphabetical?
I am of sound mind. No. This is fun. This is different. I'm intrigued. I wish this episode was.
Sorry. Okay, now the sound source is correct. Sorry, everyone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Could people not hear us for the last?
No, they could. It was just the camera.
Are you sure that they can hear us now?
Are we
good?
They
Because I
can
only
now.
see one bar going up and down.
Yeah. There's only one.
Okay.
Because we're all going through the mixer today.
Right.
Yep, we got it. All right.
Is that right?
Anyway, in chat, feel free to drop your initial opinion, reaction, as well. Okay. Are we doing Justin first?
Yes, he said it's different.
Oh, it's different. It's
It's
okay.
nice.
Cool.
I was actually intrigued by the story and the explanations of what was going to happen, and I kind of wish this episode would have come earlier for me, personally. in many maybe 2 or 3 episodes earlier, kind of a thing, and it would have been interesting to know and then see where everything gets taken versus discovering this 7 episodes into an 8-episode series. Something that was hinted at, it keeps getting hinted at, but I thought it was cool. I thought it was interesting. That's my brief explanation. We'll get into everything else.
Nice. Christina.
I am pleased with the additions to the Star Wars mythology and to the world building, and I thought there were some nice sonic moments as well. And there were quite the reveals. There was there's a lot of things where I'm like, oh, yeah, that completely changes how I perceive that character. Key probably being that May didn't mean to start the fire.
Right.
It was never
That wasn't like the primary cause of death for everyone.
not at all. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So
Fair. I really liked this episode. Maybe my favorite. Yeah, I think I found it really satisfying to get the other side of the story, and I liked the getting to see the same scenes with extended versions or from different perspectives. I did find it very satisfying, and I felt really emotionally it made me feel distraught for the things that happened. It made me feel really conflicted in a good way, this is complicated way.
Yeah. I'm reminded, if everyone's ever seen Minority Report, where you're wondering, that Tom. Spoiler, sorry for anybody that. Should I pause now?
I think you shouldn't spoil Minority Report, but
You don't
Didn't
think
it
so?
come out more than a decade
I
ago?
do know. I do own Minority Report.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll be vague then. Okay. You wonder that movie, how is that ever going to happen? And then you find out why, and there's a revelation, and it feels fitting. So there's a lot of moments in this episode that when you're like, how could the Jedi end up doing something so heinous and horrible? And you find out just a little bit of their motivations. I mean, some of the motivations for me, I found to be we're going to discuss a little bit more, but and I don't know if it's the acting, I don't know if it's but some of the actions that were taken seemed a little bit extreme considering what was shown. But I think that's the point, is that in the heat of passion, in the heat of what these characters were going through, they made rash decisions, and that's what they did. So I definitely liked it. I definitely appreciate the new context, and I have some thoughts and questions.
Sweet.
Yeah, I liked the episode overall, and It is not my favorite episode. I feel like it was in a lot of ways it was very fitting, but there's some storycraft thoughts that I have about how you go about telling this story and the challenges and difficulties of it, that I'll probably try to get into at some point.
That's interesting because that's something I've been feeling from the very beginning of this show. And for me, this is kind of finally starting to make a little bit more sense to me. But yeah, I'm very curious to hear those thoughts.
Yeah, I'm reminded of, like, there's that scene. Well, it's not really a scene. It's a thing that happened when George Lucas got out of the screening of Phantom Menace with his colleagues, and I think that a lot of his colleagues weren't particularly. They were a little underwhelmed, a little bit nervous on the screening of that movie. And his response to that, and I think he was recognizing, and taking their critique pretty well, but he did recognize that the movie didn't lend itself to be able to remove any pieces or parts of it because he wrote the story to be intertwined in that way. You can't remove you can have more or less Jar Jar in that movie because everything that Jar Jar does in that movie, and all of his scenes really are integral to the story of the movie, and I feel that similarly about what you said, Justin, which is like you couldn't really put this episode earlier because it wouldn't be the way that they set the story up.
Right.
Really makes this revelation helps you understand the whole mysterious journey that we've been watching Soul go on through, right? So it's almost like you couldn't rearrange it in a way as it currently is, right? Like as they currently decided to tell the story the way that they did.
Totally.
It would be difficult to do that.
Right, and a small piece of this is that I think that I understood some of the actors' decisions in the second or third episode, the first flashback, better, knowing that they knew things that happened immediately around those scenes and how they might have played them differently if they had been performing the episode as it appears, like the earlier episode as it appears, rather than knowing the additional context. Right. And how that's a difficult thing to unravel because you almost can't do it the other way.
Yeah.
But
well, it reminds me of The Last Jedi, and honestly, it's a lot of folks that the Rashomon effect that didn't go down very well for a lot of viewers with The Last Jedi, but to their credit, they shot it 3 different ways, right? Mm-hmm. And they did that on purpose to help you as a viewer understand the different perspectives. So I'm wondering if they maybe would have, and in fact, I found myself wondering if they did in this episode. I'm like, did that person or did that actor act differently? And I don't think they didn't. They kept
I think
their
they
performances are the same. Mm-hmm. Not so your understanding of the scene changes, but you're right. It might not have been as effective earlier in the season because they didn't tell you the story through the perspective. They kind of gave you the hard and dirty facts, which is their performances.
Right, and a difficult part of doing any Rashomon-esque storytelling is that you know the story. Yeah. When you're the one making it, or when you're the team making it.
Right.
And as a result, it can be hard to, I guess, like to separate, to put yourself completely in the headspace of somebody who has not seen it.
Right.
When you're cutting it together, because and you can guess, but like you can guess how people will respond to things, but you can't know perfectly. And so I think it's frequently it's a difficult task to give yourself, and almost no matter what you do, somebody will bounce off of it in some way. Yeah. And so it's an interesting it's a challenging story to tell.
It is.
And there's not a surefire way to tell it right.
Agreed. And I think it's also even more difficult when it's a series. If you don't, when you're watching a movie and you watch somebody and you're maybe confused by their motivations or whatever, you find out what their motivations are within the next 2 hours, and then you're able to resolve that, dissonance in your head. We haven't been able to resolve some of the dissonance between the performances of the characters for four episodes or 3 episodes.
Yeah, but I think now a lot of the characters' actions and performances even make more sense to me.
Yeah. No, for sure, but I think just the reaction time.
Right.
3 weeks ago, some of the stuff didn't go down the way that we wish that they went down, and it's because we had to wait 3 more weeks before we had to find that. We just had to keep it. Oh, okay. I guess we'll get that explained later. Which I don't know how effective of that necessarily is. It's up for debate.
Yeah, because it forces the viewer to settle on a regular basis, while also, so that's like the drawback, is that it requires the viewer to settle, but the pro is that it maintains tension for so long that then we do feel very dramatic in these past 3 episodes.
Yep.
So
it might have been a good argument for this being a binge model if they would have just released the whole show. I don't know.
I admit I did not watch them weekly with you guys. I caught up on the last 2 episodes yesterday, and that was really positive for me. I really liked that.
I'm very curious to see how it would have been received if it was all released at once, differently, actually.
Right.
Has there ever been a series that was like
Visions?
2 releases?
Oh.
Like the first half and the second half or something like that, where you can
not
like
Star Wars wise.
Not
you,
Star
like,
Wars, but there's
get to binge up until a certain point.
Yeah, sometimes
then you
for
get to
I think
binge.
Stranger Things. I mean, sometimes they just make short seasons. Like I want to say Stranger Things did that. I definitely know like Rick and Morty did that. Rick and Morty did like a short season and then did the rest of their season. And that didn't boil down because they were trying to tell a story. It's that their production, they only got half the season done, and they had to do the rest. So I don't know if anyone's ever done that necessarily purposefully. I guess you could say that like movies like, I don't know, Deathly Hallows 1 and 2 are kind of like that. Like, it's one story or one book and they decide to tell it in 2 parts, things like that kind of come to mind. Or like, what is it? Didn't Twilight do that with their last? I don't know. I never watched Twilight.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's so common.
Did it. Hobbit was 3 movies. Yeah.
It's so common in theater, though. If you think about it, you go and the first half of the situation is all about
the setup,
and there is supposed to be tension, and it's either going to end on a cliffhanger or some kind of midway point, and then the end is very dramatic.
Right, because of the act break, the intermission break.
Yeah.
Can someone remind me what Leslie Headland's kind of claim to fame before the show was Russian Doll, right? What streaming platform was that?
Netflix.
And that is a binge platform, and that whole show was released all at once. So it goes to show. I mean, I wonder if there's something there. I think that she might have written this show similar to the way she wrote Netflix. Yet it's kind of like putting somebody into the go watch Star Wars in the theaters and then like literally yanking them out after 15 minutes. Be like, hey, we'll let you watch the next 15 minutes next week, and then we'll let you let the next 15. I don't know how people would receive a movie if you did that to them. And in some ways, again, I'd be very curious at what the discourse around the show would be if people just got to watch the whole thing in a night. I don't know.
To pivot to this episode specifically and the music in it, I feel like I found it really, I need to go back and watch it, listen to it again, but the use of, there was music from previous episodes kind of peeking through. I really want to compare this to episode 3 now, where a lot of the scenes from this are, from a different perspective from the episode 3 scenes. Did you all notice anything about the music that stood out to you? Like whether there were, I know we talked about the the witches music last time, and I want to know how that landed with everyone this time, and then also the twins in the wood stuff, and also the Jedi and coming in stuff.
I definitely noticed the one that I think I saw you looking up to double check what you had named
Yeah.
the motif before, but the
cello one?
cellos as the Jedi entered, because I liked that one originally, and it stood out to me here.
I'll play it. Let's see. What have I called it? I have called it probably
Jedi
Plaintive Cello, Jedi Intruders. There we go. So it's like, and this was also present in episode 3. So it was used again here. Okay. Sorry, it's a cello, so I need to play it an octave up. Except there's like slides. That thing happened at least twice in this episode, like and pretty consistently when the Jedi are related to when the Jedi are showing up in this coven. It's a solo cello. It's like, which isn't a texture used very much in the show. Yeah, it's satisfying to hear it again.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. I mean, in similar ways to their performances, that there's some through lines through the way that they scored the scenes. However, I did notice that they left out. I mean, obviously the Jedi weren't privy to the ceremony, but they didn't let us back into that ceremony music really. And to me, that shows, the ceremony. But you know what we did?
We
here?
got a different thing.
We got a different thing, and it was a little bit. I mean, my emotional reaction. I don't remember what actually happened musically, but my emotional reaction was it felt more foreboding. It felt scarier, maybe. It felt more sinister. It felt less celebratory, and more like maybe something that the Jedi would have been interpreting that ceremony.
They were controlling Kelnaka with that, right?
The witches chant specifically, right? There was 2 moments where it came
There was
up.
an earlier one where they were chanting over the big pit.
Yes, over the pit.
Okay,
Right.
you don't mean the one where they all got like knocked out at the same time.
Right.
No,
That one is also later.
this
Yeah.
one, this one, the earlier one, they were going.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. There-
Which I.
It was very
like,
Wizard of Oz.
Very
Or it was what's the Ewoks putting the fire on
Oh
the
yeah. No.
Oh my god, it's
Oh,
the
yeah,
same
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Yeah, you're
it's the
right,
exact
you're
same
right.
thing. They were Ewoks.
I can't.
And it was in,
like
like,
on Return of the
my
Jedi. yet?
goodness.
No, that's after. Right,
Okay.
okay.
I'm
Oh,
excited for that.
Oh,
one.
that's funny.
That is so
And it was a
funny.
forced too, so
They were Ewoks all along. That's been the secret.
Now,
I
But-
thought that moment. Oh yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I thought that moment was extremely successful because I think that hearing the witches chant in this episode was, like you said, foreboding because it was far away and it wasn't the focus. It was like our focus was creeping and looking around, and the witches chant is one of the things that we noticed. Whereas when it was first presented in the early episode 3, right? It was front and center, almost felt like being front row at a Broadway play or something like that, where you're very aware of the fourth wall. You're like, who are they performing to? Why do I get to watch this really intimate ritual from in the middle of it when I'm obviously not there? Whereas I could picture myself 20 feet away looking at the ritual.
I think that's kind of where I didn't like the original chant, the original thing we saw, because it felt, besides lyrically interesting, it felt so overproduced that I couldn't. It was. I felt like it was trying to do everything. It was trying to be diegetic. It was trying to be score. It was trying to be spoken word. It was trying to be ritual. And you're right. Like who was it? What were we actually
For.
experiencing, and who was it for? Where this time, without all that extra stuff happening, and all we heard was it felt way more
better.
realistic to me.
Question here, y'all.
Yeah.
And we know that for a fact, like during the Bad Batch, that the Kiners were scoring that mid-season, right? Like they were.
like they didn't get everything at once for
Right.
sure.
There's not a possibility that that's happened with this show.
I
is
don't
there?
believe
I
so.
do not.
Okay,
think
or
so.
that they made any decisions considering some of the response to.
No.
certain-
No,
okay.
no way.
So, and
No.
the first and the first thing that they composed was the ritual chant music.
Sure, got it.
Right.
I mean, it's certainly possible that they had extra stock, audio that they could have like taken things out, taken stems out. They had plenty of time.
And
plenty of
people
money
have
to
done
do
that
so.
before, totally.
So
I don't.
that's purely speculative and is almost not worth even wondering about. But
No, but
I mean,
It'll be a question if I ever get to interview Michael Abels.
right? Because I'm just thinking like it seemed like things with the witches were like toned down, and I know like there's like a Rashomon reason for that, but I felt like things that were campy and maybe a little bit off weird about the witches in episode 3 that were like, what was going on with that? What was going on with the sound? What's going on with the music? I felt like none of that was hitting on those like this seems a little bit heavy-handed.
Hokey.
Like
Well, I think it's what you mentioned earlier with like we weren't let into the ceremony, like we weren't
Yeah.
let into the whole
Yeah.
thing this time.
And that's what I'm saying. I guess it served the effect that we talked about with the
Right.
different perspective that it's coming from. Maybe this tells me something about my problematic perspective, my colonialist-ass perspective, where I'm like, yeah, I like it when the witches are scary, and not like human beings,
Matthew says, I want Ewok Force switches,
Yes.
which I think we're all on board with. Are we?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I wanted to say a thing. Right here, they're thinking that the witches, who in this episode are shown to have some Dathomir witches, like some Night Sister abilities, certainly.
Sure.
They, so is it in one of the Ewok movies? I believe that the villain has been retconned to be a Night Witch of Dathomir.
Really?
Oh, that's funny.
Okay.
So,
I think
and
I know what
there
you're talking
might
about.
actually be a connection.
Are we finally making? Oh,
finally
making
There's-
the
there's-
Ewok movies canon.
Yeah, there's diegetic cultural exchange between the Night Sisters and the Ewoks,
That's funny.
and therefore maybe
That's
the
a-
Ewoks got it from the
Right.
Night Sisters.
And that's in similar level. That's about as canon as like Rex being in the Forest of Endor,
Which
right?
is why C-3PO
Yes.
starts to float. It all makes sense.
But it's very fun. That's very fun. I will say on the Night Sister thing, I do like how this show is seemingly like set out to just like shut up annoying people that are complaining. Because one of the complaints with the witches back in season 3 is that they're like, but they're not night witches, and there can't be other kinds of witch in the people were complaining that there weren't night witches, and I like how the Jedi in this episode were like,
Why would they assume that they weren't Night Sisters if
Well,
they
I-
didn't mention?
well, there's people that are annoyed that there's like they're doing witches and they're not doing it the way that George Lucas did witches, kind of thing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, let's not pay attention to those voices, but I really like in this episode, like literally somebody was like, "Are they night witches?" And they're like, "No, they're not." But yes, night witches do exist. Is everyone happy now? Great. Okay. Awesome.
I don't think they confirmed that they were definitely not Night Sisters, though.
Yeah, I think they
think
actually
the door
left it
is open.
ambiguous.
You think
Yeah.
so?
Yeah, I think intentionally ambiguous. I think that because they never asked them.
Yeah.
That's not part of what the Jedi went in there to do, and
Right.
it's not something that they ever learned. They killed them all
Yeah.
one way or another
And-
before they got to.
what would be their response if the Jedi are like, "Well, what are you?" Would they be like, "Some call us Sith"?
Some call me Tim.
Tim.
Okay.
But
Here's a question.
really, I'd be curious to
While
see
we're
what
on
they
the
would
Night Sister
respond.
thing. Okay, that is a Zabrak. One of them is a Zabrak,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
right? And so this is what I was saying when you said was I read about Darth Maul. I'll take a little bit of a little asterisk win that
Sure.
we got a little bit of Darth Witch there. But what I wanted to ask is like have we ever seen a female Zabrak before?
Yes.
Yeah, where at?
Technically, I think that the Night Sisters are.
Well, that's what I wanted to know. But do they?
You mean other than in the Clone Wars?
And
Yeah, but I don't think. Do we ever see like with horns resembling like?
most of them don't have horns.
Right.
That's what Wikipedia says.
Okay. Did we ever
So
see one
there's
on
also-
screen with horns and stuff?
I think that we might have in the prequels somewhere before it was decided that Asajj Ventress was also Dathomirian.
Got
That was the point at which it was
Got it.
where those two would have been separate species but were combined. into one.
Combined. This is the female form. This is the male form.
Is somebody answering this question?
No,
The witch from the second Ewok movie.
this retcon is
TV
Night
movie
Sisters
was
and
retcon as
EU
Night Sisters.
Legends.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, this is an interesting choice. They clearly gave this particular character like what has been up until this point been associated with male Zabrak features. I can't imagine that's not on purpose.
Oh yeah, I mean, and also there's a famous trans actress is one of the
Abigail
one of the
Thorne.
other witches.
Is playing
One of the witches.
Oh, one of the other witches.
And I keep-
Yeah, she's got lines.
Okay.
Did she have lines this episode?
Yeah,
Which
she
one?
had a couple lines this episode.
But she's not playing. That's not Zor. That's,
she said we can't let her leave. Like
Oh,
she
okay, okay.
Can't, you can't let her go with them.
got it.
That's right.
She just gets some lines, you know.
Yeah.
Awesome. Got that Screen Actors Guild card.
Hey.
So okay, yeah. I just wanted to point that out. That I was curious and interested in questioning.
Yeah, okay. We have a couple comments here. First of all, from Matthew, it was strange to end the episode with a song from a pop singer. It reminds me of movies which adds a pop song at the credits.
Yeah.
Yeah, we said
Which
We
doesn't
said that
quite
when we-
fit, but are added to sell a soundtrack. Well, we didn't get everyone's individual opinions. A
Yeah.
couple of vocal people, I think overall,
But
I was fine with
Do we
it.
want to talk about the ending credits, or do we want to wait for that one? Because that seems like that'll be a good discussion.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, well, we're going to pin
We
this.
hear
We were
you.
definitely going to talk about
We're
this,
definitely
Matthew.
going to talk about that.
And then the other comment is, I've heard some complaints about how hearing Soul promising to reveal only to delay again and again annoying. That they wanted more hints at what happened that night before it was all revealed.
Yes and no.
Do you? Yeah, I'm curious.
I felt
Because I feel like there have been hints.
there have been hints,
Yeah.
and I feel like, again, in the writing and the story and the direction of some of these previous scenes, where it was like the manner of how he was constantly interrupted, and then just like, I'm about to tell you, oh, power's back on. I'm about to tell you, oh, something's happening. I'm about to tell. I'm gonna tell you right now, after this, kind of a thing. I think it just kept happening, and I think
After
that's
this pop song.
would
I-
I would see why that would be a complaint. That's all I'm
So
saying.
do you think that the next episode will begin with him actually giving an explanation, or having given an explanation and it was this episode?
I feel like this episode was the explanation, I'm hoping.
Oh.
Unless he comes around in the beginning of the next episode and says something different. That
Well-
would be interesting.
May seems okay. Let's think about that for a second. What is May aware of now that we've seen this episode? Like, what do we know that May is without Soul's
okay.
without Soul's explanation?
Well,
what is
May knows that Soul killed her mother.
she
And
saw
knew
that,
all along.
yeah.
She
She
saw
saw
that.
that
Yep.
firsthand.
She
Okay.
saw that.
But she doesn't know that Soul is the one that let her go. Like, not necessarily.
I don't. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
I did. You know what? Okay, let me just talk about that real quick. I do like that the two girls in that scene were literally saying each other's names to be like, let me make it clear to this
Which one?
person.
Yeah,
who
yeah,
are
yeah.
like, May, Osha, May, Osha.
It worked.
Got it.
And earlier he flat out looked as like, OSHA stopped when
Yeah.
it was May.
Right.
And he didn't, again, recognize her until the tattoo, which to me is just fun because while the adult OSHA and May are very much the same actress, and we could kind of pass that off.
kids are so
clearly
The kids are
different.
clearly different people.
Yes, that's right.
So we can read into that however you all want.
Yeah, I mean, I
but-
did appreciate the they gave us kind of a forced explanation of like why the Jedi with their they're tapped into the Force like are mixing these two up, because they're the same thing, like even within the Force, like
They're
within
feeling
their
the
Do you mean
same
the
thing.
witches?
The-
Or,
no,
you mean
no,
the
May and
kids?
Osha are
The dual,
right,
the
right,
dual
right.
symbiont.
yeah,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
like
Signatures.
Their
even their
symbionts are the
which-
same.
Yeah,
I
Which-
thought they said
this-
symbiote for a second. I was
This
like,
show
this
is
Spider-Man.
so the Phantom Menace, man. Like, she loves the Phantom Menace so much. Like, and I love it. It's not a critique. It's just like when they did like a whole like, let's talk more about the symbionts. I'm
Yeah.
like, you nerd.
Did they say midichlorian?
No,
They
they
said
said
count.
no.
Count.
That is the
No.
new canon.
Okay. No, they need to say midichlorian.
They gotta say it.
They gotta
Be
say
brave.
it before this season's out. That's my requirement. They gotta say midichlorians. Once.
Someone's gotta say it.
James, I
We'll
actually
say it.
think if they didn't say May, OSHA, if they cut that, I think it still would have been 100% clear, because in my mind, I'm like, I am already. There's been enough hints, and we know kind of stuff that happened, and he's surprised that she survived, etc.
Right.
Just seeing him pick one of them, we already know who it is.
Right.
But what if?
How would he know though?
Right. And
That
if
was
the-
my thing. It's like
He
it,
just
it
Well,
wasn't.
because he
And if
feels
we've been-
drawn to one of them.
Right,
not
if we've
the
been-
other.
He's still mixing them up.
Yeah,
That's the- I
he
think
mixed
that's-
them up a
that's
scene earlier.
What if he saved May all along?
Yeah.
Kind of a thing, and it's been May this entire time. Actually, May, and she's been playing the long game
It's
here.
gonna be
And here comes
May.
OSHA screwing this all up. for
That's
her.
really funny. Yeah, and I also I just want to go ahead and give us another pat on the back. That what in episode 1 or like the episode 1 and 2 in our first reaction, we were like, what is he gonna be like trying to hold and he can't do it with both hands? Remember when we
And
said
then
that?
he just
It's like pretty much what he did. The only difference is it wasn't the Beard Jedi, who
Right.
I'm also now understanding why that guy.
Do you mean Torben?
Torben, Beard Jedi. Yeah, the guy, the Padawan that wants to go home.
He just wants to go home,
so
guys.
badly. He's like, I'm going to storm into this like coven of witches.
But his
and
eyes went
steal
black,
2
right?
children just so I can go home.
His mind was a little bit.
Do you
pillaged,
think
right?
do you think that's part of
He
why
was
he was like
unfired.
losing his
I
shit?
think because like Kelnaka was clearly like still
Under
thinking
the
about
influence.
this witch coven thing decades later.
Right.
So like, yeah, I think Torben could be still a little addled the next day, the next
Yes.
couple days.
Yes. Okay. That makes a lot more sense.
Also-
He's just like,
Continuing the dialogue that has been happening in past weeks about how, like, I guess Coruscant politics or Coruscant, or I'm sorry, I'm trying to say like the people of the galaxy. What is that like? Anthropology.
Sure.
But point being, that kid was very much a representation of like a Coruscant baby who like really wants to stay on Coruscant and is super scared of anything
Oh,
else.
right.
That's
he's such a
one of-
nepo baby.
That's
that
one
kid.
of the
Yeah.
trope characters in
Yeah.
the High Republic novels.
Yeah. Honor? No, Wreath.
He's kind of like Wreath Silas.
Yeah,
who's just
he
like,
just wants to stay in the library. He
"Please,
doesn't want to go.
library."
Yeah. Well, when she's like, "Do you have desires or whatever?" Suppressed desires.
Yeah, I was like, you're really. I was like, yo, is this about to happen?
And then
or
she's
not?
like, "Kneel."
yeah.
How did you guys feel about the whispering in that scene?
Great.
The panning of the whispers.
James liked it.
I kind of liked it actually. I feel like it's done really badly.
Wish I was wearing
sometimes,
headphones.
And it was not done badly.
Yeah, I really liked it. I also love your. Yeah, I mean, your speaker system is just lovely, Xanthe. You know, could really capture the directional nature of that. It's quite nice.
That's an unsarcastic
James
remark.
is
Okay.
sarcastic.
Yeah.
Is he? I don't know.
But I'm also
Oh,
recognizing how
he
silly
is.
of a thing that is to say. That's why you maybe it came off confusing. So okay, so what was I just gonna say about
Whisper.
Oh, you know what I like, and I'm sure that many folks that maybe have found some of the Jedi's actions hard to swallow in this show is that we got confirmation the Jedi Council was like, leave them alone.
Yeah.
Don't you've already done too much. All of them. Get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
What
yeah.
are you doing?
And Indara's like, it's common in other cultures to have rituals.
Right. And so it's very clear that no, it's like Soul and Beard Boy that are the weird ones here that are like acting completely
And
inappropriately.
for Soul, it's his he feels an attachment
Right.
to Osha,
and
or he feels drawn to her. yeah.
And
I
I
don't
think
even-
I think I would say that he feels protective of children
Yeah.
in a way that is not culturally sensitive.
yes.
Is another angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's also not technically. I'm totally fine with the idea that he is not attracted to Osha, but like he has an attraction with Osha.
Okay, I'm not because I would not be fine with that idea.
no.
Yeah.
But I think that even almost like worse than that, like remember the joke at the beginning of the episode that they made a point to put in where Indara was joking that Soul doesn't have an apprentice.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, a Padawan.
Right.
And it was like, haha, because why would you have one? Because you're not ready. You look at you.
Right.
And so I think he just wants one.
Mm-hmm.
Kind
That's
of
a-
like
that's-
how
People just want to,
Yeah.
get married at a certain point.
yeah, Sith wants the second one.
I think the Sith wants, I think the Sith
Ooh,
wants
actually,
two of them.
that's-
Actually.
Speaking of the power of two, there's definitely like temples where like you can't enter the Sith temple unless there's two Sith present to lift. That like the one that Ezra and Darth
That's
Maul
right.
Oh, that's
accessed.
right.
The
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
point of it was that
He
like
needed
Darth Maul never could have
power
gotten
of
in there without
many.
Ezra. So it's interesting. There must be a strong duality situation
Yeah,
in Sith
I like
lore.
that a lot.
I think the tension between Soul, like being a protector of children, like but culturally insensitive, what Ender said, also demonstrates or exemplifies. What?
Sorry, I'm getting like very Last Supper vibes from our like Xanthe's like the only one standing. We're like all like in different positions. Sorry.
The something like the Jedi attachment thing, sort of like the Jedi, the constant struggle between whether should the Jedi in general get involved or should the Jedi in general leave things alone. And Soul is sort of like not only the attachment thing, but like all the Jedi in the prequels and High Republic that do get involved with the politics, with saving people from certain planets, with like doing stuff, being part of the Republic and stuff. Soul, it feels like he is more in that camp, even if it's not literally following their instructions, because in this case, I think it's the opposite of what they want. But Indara wants to stay detached, like even if it's going to be a messed up situation for the children, she's just like, we need to stay hands off, and that's how a lot of Jedi are. So I could see a read that is like, wow, Soul's actually trying to do something about a messed up situation. Like,
Yeah,
I could see him being in the right to a lot of people.
There's definitely characters here acting out some of the conflicting stated goals of the Jedi as a religion, as a guiding principle, where pacifists who are also mighty warriors who are passive but also get involved, like have to get involved, and like all of Luke's conflict in the original trilogy from with all of his training with Yoda is kind of this question of like, how involved are you supposed to get, and how much is dangerous to be involved, and like what are the consequences of getting involved, and when is it still worth it to get involved?
Yeah.
And that's what he struggles with in the sequels, of course.
That's true.
And which I also love the switch from Obi-Wan and Yoda in Return of the Jedi. Like, okay, actually, never on second thought, we need you to kill your dad, and we definitely need you to kill him.
And then he doesn't kill him.
Right.
He again. There's this
And they were like,
tension
we were
among the
testing you.
Jedi.
Yes. Yeah. I think, and we see ultimately what this leads them to in Phantom Menace, where literally the Jedi are sitting there on a planet where they're watching slavery happen, and they're saying we're going to wash our hands of this.
Right. And Soul would be like, no.
Right.
We should do something about this.
Right.
Matthew says there was an interview with Leslie Headland in which she said Dave Filoni told her that there are more witches in Star Wars beyond Night Sisters. That hearing that opened things up for her, and then looked it up. And Dave Filoni, quote, was like, not all witches are Night Sisters.
Got it. I feel like Leslie Headland like really gets the Jedi.
Yeah.
I feel like this. She really.
And unfortunately, it took until this episode to
prove
to really dive into each of these four Jedi. I mean, we know less about Kelnaka still, and I hope that we get to explore more about Kelnaka. But clearly had different motivations in this episode, and I thought that was really, really interesting. And also, like that Torben wanted to go home, and so he made bad choices, and Soul wanted to save them, and so he made bad choices, and Indara is the one who came up with the lie.
Right.
For everything that she was like, we need to stay out of this and respect what they're doing.
Do you think that's why perhaps Kelnaka exiled himself, because he's like, I'm over it, like, y'all dug your grave, I'm out of here, kind of a thing? Like, I'm curious why Kelnaka wouldn't, like... Yeah.
I think he felt bad.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, he doesn't want to be part of this. Like, I don't want to be part of your lie. I don't want to do these things. I'm out. I'm gone, kind of a thing.
Right.
Because he didn't.
Or
Of the three of them, of the four of them, excuse me, he's a little bit more in the clear in this situation.
He wasn't of sound mind. He got like mind controlled. I also want to just note
wait. Do you think he was fighting with Soul and Torben because he didn't want Soul to take them?
No, I think
Okay.
he was fighting because he was being brainwashed. I'm
Okay,
just
okay.
saying, of the four of them, he has the cleanest hands in this mess.
for sure.
So waking up,
furriest hands, but
yes,
clean.
the well-groomed hands, the most groomed hands out of all of them. But
Listen. I'm just gonna go ahead and say this. Notice this. It happens with droids. It happens with non-human characters. I feel like Kelnaka, he was coming up to the fortress with them. They're like, Kelnaka, slice the thing. It's like isn't he their peer? Like, isn't he like, and it just felt like the way.
But Wookiees are good at technology. We know this from
from
our
Still-
RPG.
I meant more the I meant more the directive and the way that they
Yeah.
spoke to him, like he was like kind of the way that they treat Chewie in the first movie, where he's kind of just the dog. He's like
A
the
little
walking
bit,
dog
yeah.
that everyone kind of treats. It's almost like he's like one step above Han's pet in that movie, you know?
And they don't put. They just say speaking Shreebook.
Right. And they don't exactly. It reminds me of what was the other show that this happened with, where they
Yeah,
did,
we were complaining. Yeah, yeah.
we were complaining that they didn't translate the language. I don't remember what it was, but it was another show that this happened with.
It may
where-
have been Andor.
right?
It may have been the kids.
And it's
on-
like they don't like.
Or
Kenari.
Basil.
Yeah.
it
Oh
was
yeah,
the kids
Basil
in
too.
Andor.
It was the Kenari kids. Yeah.
The Kenari
Yes.
kids.
Well, okay, but I do think that there is precedent for that in Star Wars, and I wonder what the extent of that
Oh yeah.
Totally.
should be. Like
Totally.
the only scene I think where they've ever translated Shreewook is in Solo when Han Solo is speaking Shreewook,
Right.
and I think it's only his lines that are translated. Also, Chewbacca's in that scene are not.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, it is just interesting which precedent takes precedence for people.
Right. Yeah, it's
because
definitely not
also
out
we've
of-
never seen a Wookiee Jedi either, on screen at least.
Oh, there was one in the last couple episodes. We haven't
Not
seen a
really.
Wookiee with a lightsaber.
Not really, not last episode.
That's right.
Yeah, no, poor.
When he
Konaka.
first appeared, I thought I didn't see his full outfit. I thought he was just wearing like board shorts, and I was like, "That's interesting." No, it wasn't that. It wasn't board shorts.
Wookiee with a lightsaber is kind of fun. Now that we can and are able to talk about the 2-second light whip, do you think that the light whip will appear again, or was that all we got? As we just,
think-
here's your 2 seconds.
I
We're
think
done.
it has to in the next episode.
I think that you were on to something with that idea that Vernestra might have been.
Trained Khmer or inflicted damage on Khmer.
Yeah, and let's real quick with okay. Did they clearly show on screen? Sometimes I miss action stuff because it just happens fast and it's loud and it goes boom, 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 and goes psh, like that as well. But
It does do that.
did the fire started all those explosions?
Yes, the fire
did.
started an electrical fire
I
in
see.
the conduits, which then got back to the generators, I assume.
Got it.
It exploded. The place blew up because it needed to blow up.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it seems like
Chekhov's exploding fortress.
also
yeah.
we commented last time about the stone seeming to catch fire, or somebody did maybe
Yeah,
while we were
right.
watching it.
Right, and now they actually showed the oil.
Yeah, now it was clear that she pulled an oil lamp off the wall that was.
Which I feel like we could have. We could have.
There was an insert that didn't get shot during reshoots.
Right,
Of,
it was
pulling it off the wall.
right, and or the oil spilling on the ground. We saw it from I think Osha's point of view,
Right.
not what the other side looked like.
Yeah.
So
Also, I wanted to talk about the point of view of this episode compared to the first one. I think that the first one was primarily from Osha's point of view.
Do you mean episode 3?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was primarily from Osha's point of view.
Yep, because there's the whole
And-
memory lapse when she's like,
Right. And it excludes conversations that took place when Osha was not there. Right. And this episode has scenes that don't include both of them. Sorry, that don't include Osha.
you're right.
But they must include May or Soul. There's no scenes
So
that don't have one of them.
That kind of points to maybe
Right.
it's part of their conversation that they're having with one another at the trip or on
right.
the ship.
That's my interpretation at this point.
Well,
I
I mean,
will
they
point
did
out
show
that
us.
there's when Indara is flying over and she sees the.
Oh, you're
so,
right.
So technically, they did show that point of view.
Okay. No.
And that's why we have closed tops.
I
I'm not
was
tall enough to put my feet on the floor.
I should
catch
say, it also includes things that Soul would have learned from the other Jedi by talking to them.
True.
Or from talking to May, because it does show some scenes that don't. Sorry, talking to Osha, because it does show some scenes that don't have May in them, but did have Osha.
Yes.
But it is what Soul has heard from Osha.
If people just talk to each other, the galaxy would be a better place.
But like,
Talk less, fight, or sorry,
nobody
talk
helps
more,
each
fight
other.
less. Say sorry sometimes.
Yeah.
I wonder if May is aware, or I wonder if May believes that everything was her fault, or if May. Well, I mean, obviously she doesn't know that she knows that the death of Mother Anasea is not her fault, but I wonder if she's super clear on like the role that the fire had, or not.
Well, I mean, we know from watching this that it seems that the whole coven was just knocked out, right?
Yes.
Indara didn't off them all.
Right, but I mean, when she
She just
saw it,
knocked
she
them
just sees
all.
a bunch of bodies.
Right.
So she thinks the Jedi killed everybody in the coven, right? I mean, that
Where
was the
Yeah.
implication.
It feels like they all just got knocked out and then the mountain exploded, kind of. a
Yeah,
thing,
I wasn't
right?
sure. I didn't think it killed them. I think Indara was like infiltrating Kelnaka's mind, like getting to
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah, it was a mind battle. It was a good
Yeah, and I think,
old-fashioned
and they're the ones that were controlling him, right?
psychic battle.
Right.
Yeah, it was
And
like
so, yeah, right. So that's what.
And the effort would kill them.
I don't think it necessarily killed them.
I don't
It's
think
just
it
like they
killed them.
fainted from.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's the
I-
Yeah,
they were
But does May know that? That's
exhausted.
the question,
Yeah.
right? Is May thinks that the Jedi killed her old coven, but she's the one that burnt the whole place down,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Matthew says James ended up at the same point that I had just made about Jedi and slavery, which was I think the way that May said that sacrifices needed to be made just freaked out Soul to the wrong conclusion. Agreed. Going back to the prequels, why were the Jedi allowing slave trade to happen? Yeah, because everyone must be sacrificed to fulfill their destiny. Like, it's sort of like that sounds really bad, but I'm also curious. They also kind of jumped to a conclusion too.
Right. It's an edgy way to say it, but it's
Yeah.
also true. Like of the hero's journey, that you have to die and be resurrected, metaphorically at least, in some way as part of that, which is being like you have to sacrifice yourself in order to fulfill your
Yeah.
destiny.
Sure.
But
Everybody does that.
they're probably like, oh, but when witches sacrifice, it's like they sing a funny song and they kill people on a stake.
Strange.
Probably
people.
children.
Yeah. And they probably eat their brains.
So strange.
So I mean, we haven't really delved into like the implications of like they kind of said in this episode that like May and Osha are like were created
One
by
consciousness split in
did
two.
they split? What I mean, were they born, or do they have a person that they literally were like, now you are two little girls? Like I mean,
they-
like what?
I'm
what-
curious if they're clones of Anasea in a weird way. Like
Yeah, maybe they're
Force clones of Anasea,
right?
which is
that were split into two clones.
Does
In
does
a
this
way.
also reconcile their haircuts though?
it still drives me crazy, but no.
No, I think it does. I think it does.
No.
I
That
think it
their hair-
justifies their haircuts being the same.
Exactly the
Like-
same 16 years later after not seeing each other.
Yes, because they're literally the same
They're the
person.
same
And as
person.
we know, midichlorians
But-
control your hair.
That's
But,
right.
Totally.
Control your hair growth.
But May did have longer extensions, and that she then barbered herself off.
Sure,
with
and
things
you
like
can
that.
you can still complain about cutting your hair with a lightsaber. But
Absolutely, and I will. Question about music for
Yes.
a second here.
Please.
Right, music minute. We'll always spend a minute on it, then we'll get back into it.
Get them.
Something. This is about the ending. This is just something I've noticed a little bit in this show that stands out to me, especially because we've done so many of these darn shows, and we get to be hyper fixated, and get nitpicky just for the sake of being nitpicky and something like that.
Get ready.
And
Give it to us.
oh, I'm getting closer. I feel like the tone of the music is not consistent in a way that I would like more of in the show overall.
Do you have? Yeah.
The scene I'm thinking about, and I can't think of other scenes, but I've noticed them, is that the music in some scenes seems to amplify a scene way more than it needs to be. For example, Soul climbing up the side of the mountain.
Yeah.
All of a sudden we got this this big epic thing, which we then find out he's climbing the whole darn mountain, which is this whole thing.
Yeah.
For example, to me felt overscored in a way of like, where this could have been a very simple passing scene of time, underscored with some music and things like that, but not like this like sound effects out, everything, big epic music swells as this person is kind of just simply climbing. Another example that I'm thinking of in this episode is the massive tonal shift then to, it gets very sentimental in a few spots. I think it was with Anastasia and Osha kind of a thing. Maybe that's mimicking what
It
was
also
happening.
gets sentimental with Soul.
A whole bunch with Soul and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like some of the switches, while absolutely apparent in other media and other shows and stuff like that, there's still a consistency to where the episode is going tonally, kind of a thing. And it feels like some scenes are, the word I'm looking for is like schmaltzed a little too much with the music.
I can see that.
Where like the horror trope kind of things that come in don't do that so much for me, and those kind of stay consistent because we're able to like, oh, okay, dissonant strings, we're doing the thing, the themes coming in, those things seem. I think it's the more grandiose moments of the score being chosen for scenes that I feel like don't need to be grandiose.
Yeah, that score that happened when Soul was climbing up the side, it sounded familiar to me. Have we heard that in a previous episode? It sounded like the theme that was happening, the actual melody. Did anyone? I might want to just go back and see if I can catch it.
It didn't register as something familiar.
Not
to
necessarily
me.
familiar.
I'll see if I
It
can.
stood out for sure.
Yeah,
I'm wondering
it
if
did
it's
not
Soul
stand out.
related. Is there the reason? Maybe
just
I wanna
feels
go
like
back and
there's
check
just
some
been-
Soul scenes, and I'll let you know.
Very
And it said fervent music, and it was just an ostinato, basically.
right. It was doing its thing.
There was a little bit of a melody that was like dun 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 dun, something like that, like eighth notes, only within like maybe like 3 notes within like a minor third, something like
Right.
that.
Okay.
And I'm not
And-
saying I'm not saying that a composer needs to like stick to your theme and
Sure.
and you know spin it up forever or stick to one style or genre of music. Obviously, we got a completely different genre of music for the end credits that we haven't necessarily heard before in live action Star Wars or any Star Wars, maybe.
Yeah, I thought that the credit music sounded very different from the rest of the show.
Very, very
so far.
different. It's very interesting.
Um,
But I don't know. But I'm specifically talking about the score, and I think like even with like the Witch's Chant and the overproduced version of the Witch's Chant, scenes that were so overscored to the point where it elevates a scene past what it needs.
yeah, I guess.
But how do you know what it needs when you don't know yet? When we don't know yet the full
Totally,
context that
my subjective opinion,
okay.
but it's
it feels like too much for you in the moment.
it feels and even in reflection, definitely
Okay.
in moments, things like that. It's kind of like, I don't know, person is crossing the road and we have to have fanfare of the common man come in, kind of a thing.
It
Big
maybe-
trumpets and things. It's
Maybe
like,
to a certain extent, it has the effect of like our classic Bad Batch season 1 childish Kiner score had within the show, where it's like this sounds different than everything else
like very different.
in a way that doesn't fit. Right? Is that kind of what you're kind of putting it out
I
there?
think
Like
that's what
there's
it-
moments that feel a little bit more like it feels like you've been transported out of a different show almost.
A little bit. I think that's what it is. And things, again, can move into different styles and genres, but it takes me out.
Yeah,
I
you're
think,
like,
at
what is
moments.
this? Like, has there any other than the Acolyte opening a couple episodes ago? Has there been any explicit words sung, chanted since that episode 3 moment, like in the score? Yeah,
Besides that
that's
part,
what I meant.
yeah.
Other than that,
Oh,
one,
other than that one.
but during the show itself, like that was like a moment that happened once in the show, and maybe that's for a reason, but it does stand out that there's like that is not within the like the aesthetic that is set by the show already. Kind of it makes it stand out in an interesting way. If there was lots of vocal work going on throughout the show. It might feel like it's fitting in a specific
Totally.
nook, maybe.
Totally.
I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's just something I'd noticed even more in this episode, that I've kind of noticed in other episodes, and just been kind of like, that scene felt a little too grandiose than what it perhaps, fine, needed is not the right word, but appeared to be.
Sure.
Kind of a thing.
I could dig that.
For the record, that particular thing hasn't bothered me very much. Sometimes I do detect like that some moments are just more quote unquote, okay, some parts are a little bit more maybe boring. I wouldn't say like too, but that's because it just feels like, oh, we need to put in a snippet of, and it's basically only when it's like doing a very cookie cutter ostinato type of thing.
You know what it feels like? Because it's not those moments that
And
I'm,
I notice
that
it because
I'm
other
noticing.
parts are really beautiful and awesome and nicely crafted.
Right.
Yeah.
It feels like, and I'm not speculating, but it feels like the scenes were given to the composer out of order and with no context of where things were going to lead next. And so they said, oh, this seems sentimental. I like this. This is my sentimental music. Oh, this looks heroic. I'm going to put the heroic music in, kind of a thing. And then when the episode gets strung together after the fact, in a way, it's like you didn't have the chance to see an episode from start to finish and go, I know the narrative I want to tell with the music, versus like, here's what we've got done. You'll see it where everything's going later, kind of a thing.
Do you feel like that's more likely than
Misscoring?
well, like all of these composers work with teams.
Right.
Could it just be a case of not having a perfectly unified voice with your composing team?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that could be part of, again, like everyone's tasked on little parts rather than the whole kind of thing coming together, where like, let's have for example, a meeting about the episode versus, okay, you've got all scenes with Kanaka, you got all scenes with Soul, you got all the, okay, great. Use this music, use this things. Oh, this is sentimental. Oh, these are sentimental parts. And then once we scored those scenes, it's like everything got strung together, and this is the order that things turned out a little bit.
Do you think that some of that could be because there aren't very clear? I mean, one of the most there just aren't very clear instances of characters having their own themes, and it's super obvious and clear. Whereas typically that's what is expected to hold scores together a lot of the time are clear themes.
It's a thing like that.
And it's almost like they decided not to have clear themes.
And they did
so I
state
wonder
that.
if
Well,
that it's interesting.
We did state at the
Yeah.
beginning that the themes
That's-
themselves weren't going to be about necessarily
Yeah.
the characters, but more about the emotions and the themes of what's
Because
happening.
Yeah.
we don't really know any of the characters' motivations purposefully.
We still
Right.
also, yeah.
I mean, because it's secret. The whole show is secretive. Every single character has some ulterior motive to a certain extent. Like, even the main bad guy turns out to be a different character that we didn't even realize they were, right?
Right.
I mean, they're like, every character has got like a duality to them, So I can see why that would be an effective omission from the approach to the score. Is like, we shouldn't give everyone a theme because everyone's going to be recontextualized later
Totally.
on.
Totally. And
You know?
I like that approach.
Yeah.
I do like that approach. I think I want to listen to the soundtrack without watching, because I haven't had that chance yet, except for like spot little bits and stuff like that, and listen to that and see if I also still have that opinion, kind of a thing. But I don't know. It's just something that I noticed, especially blaring to me, is when he was climbing up that hill.
I will say, other than Himbo Jedi, he could have had a clear theme. He was tried and true, and Himbo to the end.
Himbo.
Yep.
Goodbye, Yord. We knew you not very well.
I don't know. I thought I got him.
So I'm going back and listening to some of like the early soul music, and I'm finding it like, okay, so there's like I wrote in my notes like pretty new melody. I don't feel like it's very sentimental though. So I'm curious if
That's how they paint the scenes, though. I noticed.
that's also part of it. But to me, it feels more like less sentimental and more plaintive's also not the right word. It's stoic, actually.
Yeah, it's
Something more. It's. Very minimal vibrato. That's what we're getting at around 141, and it's just a solo horn or something.
interesting.
And it with minimal vibrato, with a very spacious, like open chord, like it sounds very open. American.
So that's interesting then, like
Copeland.
how the music then can be interpreted without the scene versus what they're trying to convey in the scene. I think another one, now that I'm thinking about it, another one that kind of throws me off a little bit is Basil's music, because it's like very, dum, 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 and it's like it's trying to be the sneaky, clever, comical trope kind of a thing, and then he like kicks May in the shin or bites her knee or something like that and runs off. It's like they play these like funny things that don't land, and I think the music tries to do that with Basil's music as well, and I think that just tonally takes me out of a whole.
Basil's music does
Kind of
stand
like
out.
what Marvel will do, and with scenes, not necessarily the music, but like with scenes and stuff like that. We can't stay tonally consistent in its own way.
Basil's theme. All pizzicato.
Right.
And then
Right.
the other
That's
one
fun.
is.
With like little like clarinets and stuff in the background doing their
And
like
then the other one is,
dancey, sneaky
which
music.
we got this. We did. Well, I think we got both. It's the. Oh, it's also Pitts. But, that one.
It kind of sounds
Bezel on the case.
folksy, holsty.
They do sound. Yeah, they totally do.
Both of those themes go somewhere, and for sure, someone's theme who
Oh,
or
interesting.
someone's music who does not go somewhere is indeed. Oh, why can't I? What's wrong with me that I blank on it?
Osha?
No, I mean Saul.
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 Like
No,
I feel like Saul's
exactly.
music is distinctly not going anywhere, and maybe
I
that
think it is
Interesting.
going somewhere.
I don't know.
It actually is a pretty.
Maybe
at
better
least
in
what
context.
They played there is sort of like
It's noodly.
it does start actually very like
Noodle.
open-minded. I don't know, and then it does get slightly more worrisome. Like there's a little bit of a dark thought that enters it or something. And I'm still talking about the one that enters at 141. I do think, but the notes are very slow, so it unfolds really slowly.
Yeah.
But it does go somewhere, just not very quickly.
Okay, I'm struggling a little bit with the moment that Soul kills their the what's their mother's name?
Anisea.
Coral? Oh,
Say it again.
Anisea.
Anisea.
Anasea. Okay. Anasea. I found that sequence I wasn't clear. I mean, it's clear. I understand like logically what happened. He was startled by something and seemed like she was gonna do something to
And then
hurt.
he just stabbed her.
And then he just stabbed her. I just had a moment where it kind of just the way it was crafted on the screen made me be like, well, why did you do that? I kind of know what the filmmakers are trying to show me, that there was a moment that he just did the wrong thing at the wrong time.
Where did Coral go?
She was downstairs
instructing.
already.
She was like counseling May to do stuff. Right?
She was.
She
no,
was
May
she
was
was
there.
preparing the fighters. She was upstairs, I believe. at
No,
that point.
so, but no, they were all together when she killed Anisea because they were talking.
Oh,
so
you're right,
she
you're
kills
right.
Soul kills Anisea, and then she
And then
fights Coral, and then she's like, haha, Black Cloud kind of a thing. And then all the witches become the Black Cloud, but I
Right.
don't remember seeing her chanting with all the witches.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm curious.
Well, she
like-
was fighting. She was fighting Soul. That's why.
right, and then she was
right,
like,
but then she disappeared.
Okay,
did
she
her
just
thing.
disappeared.
And then they all disappeared, and
Right.
she and he was Tobin was like, they're doing it again, it's happening again, kind of a thing. My mind is
Right.
fortified, and I hear the echoes. So I'm curious. That still helps my conspiracy theory that Coral's alive.
Right.
Coral's
I
alive.
think you're right. I think
and
they,
I think
they
I
didn't
think
show
there's
her
a
die.
possibility.
that she's still alive. I think she might be
The Sith Lord.
the Sith Master.
The Sith,
if
yeah.
the stranger Smilo is actually the apprentice
Yeah.
who wants an acolyte, which is one under an apprentice, I believe, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So
Who helps the apprentice kill the master?
exactly,
Right.
kind of a
Becomes the
thing.
apprentice.
So it feels like Khmer wants to. Wants to come here. Get over here. Wants to. Wants to.
There's
Some
connection.
moments. Yeah, no,
some
I
Mortal
think it
Kombat
works.
going on
I think
in the
it- I
show
think
to
it
a
works.
certain extent, you know?
Yeah, I think maybe Khmer wants to kill Coral.
Yeah, actually, the way they
Yeah.
way they framed
Chimera, excuse me,
they
Chimera.
actually the way they framed that one shot where he stabs her. And then there's Coral on one side in slow motion, and he stabs her. Was kind of like a Mortal Kombat like screen. It was like
Yeah.
one person on one side, slow motion. It looked like a fatality screen, actually.
A little
Maybe
bit.
that's what drew me out. Is like I feel like I'm watching a video game or something, and I can't really.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like a video game cutscene or something.
A little bit.
Was anyone else like a little bit weirded out by that scene, or just like
Yeah,
feel like
a
it
little
didn't
bit.
hit how it felt? It probably should have hit.
I was a little bit confused by the visuals, and it wasn't helped
Yeah,
by
and I
being
think
in
I
slow
was- yeah.
motion.
Yeah,
Were the arrows
Um,
laser arrows? Did they have like laser tips? That
They
just
had,
like
they had
little-
some sort of laser or explosive tips,
or
yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
because you can't just shoot normal arrows in
No,
Star
not
Wars.
at all. But we can have knives.
We can
Knives
have
are
knives.
fine. Kunais are cool, but
Yeah.
not normal
Um,
arrows.
But yeah, so I was not clear on what she was doing with the black mist thing.
Yeah.
But then when I saw it in normal speed, when Coral did it, then I understood what had happened, which is the Night Sister ability to turn invisible.
Oh, I was unclear about that.
They were she just was turning invisible, and Soul stabbed her, and that's why she immediately was still there,
Why was she even turning invisible at that moment?
because
Trying
she-
to escape,
Yeah,
probably.
probably.
And then he looked over and saw the same thing happening to May, and I think that was part of his panic because he
Right.
noticed.
Was
oh,
May turning invisible too?
Yes.
Yep.
she was starting
Oh,
to.
so
and
she was turning her invisible.
He thought that she
And
was.
that was killing her
or doing something,
Okay, I
yeah.
think just this discussion shows that I think that
Do you think
maybe
Coral was turning May invisible, or do you think May, having already gone through Ascension, was able to go invisible?
I think either is possible.
It wasn't Coral. It was
No,
Anastasia.
Anastasia was right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just making sure because honestly, I don't know what happened in that scene. All I know is that she came.
Yeah.
Came
So
out dead.
so the thing is that
So.
I think that if visually, Anastasia had turned invisible more quickly, like if the transition had been a faster one, I could have read it better, but actually because of the slow motion, it took me seeing Mother Coral turn invisible in order to be like, oh, they were turning invisible. Got it.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta be honest with you. I was reading that as not invisibility, but as in like some type of spiritual transporting, spiritual
Yeah, I thought
departure.
they were. Yep, I thought they were like flying away.
Yeah, like they were
Yeah.
Draculaing away, you know. Okay, yeah, I feel like that could have been better, especially because it seems to be a pretty pivotal moment in the story. Like it could have been like a more of a gut wrench, and it kind of just made me go like, wait, what just happened?
But maybe you were just as confused as Soul was in the moment.
And that might be intentional. Yeah.
Because he kind of freaked out and wasn't, you know.
Yeah, it had to look a certain amount ambiguous for us to understand why Soul did what he did. It also had to look clear enough that we understood after the fact what happened. So that's a hard thing to balance, right?
I'll push back against that a little bit. I feel like I know how. I feel like what they could have done is show May clearly, maybe give us a little bit more face time on her, like May disappearing, like very clearly, maybe, and him going, oh, May, no, disappearing, go back, and going like that to her.
I mean, I think that's
what I mean?
literally what they did.
I don't know that they did it. They paced it that way. No, I don't think. No,
I think if you cut the audio of what you just described, it would be
Let's find out.
at the same pace exactly.
Are you watching it?
We got ourselves
Yeah.
a stream off.
No, I just don't think they paced it with like those, like you need that shot of her disappearing and then him being like, what's happening? Those things like, and I don't remember seeing that particular thing telegraphed that way. It felt like all of a sudden she was disappearing and all of a sudden he was stabbing her, you know? Regardless, I think it was ambiguous enough that it didn't feel for me hit in a way that I kind of wish it would have. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Did you notice that like the Kylo Ren theme kind of played there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did.
I feel like this is like, hey, did you hear the Kylo Ren theme in this episode? It's like the we're playing that on repeat.
Yeah.
Throughout this whole show. Very good. What if Adam Driver's in this show? That'd be fun.
After he stabs her.
That's also that particular
Which is also
version
like the Apple. Yeah.
is
Driver just appears.
is from Sweeney Todd.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Joanna. Joanna.
Is it right?
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Which is also a very creepy song. It's great.
In that particular mode.
I do.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't clear what was going on with Soul killing Mother Anastasia. I thought it was visually showing how she was about to use her mind power to try to control one of the Jedi.
Who's Watermelon?
Yeah.
Gosh, this reminds me of when cops shoot people and they're like, I thought they were gonna.
No, I mean this. I had a
That's-
big
yeah,
feeling about that,
that's
especially
kind
the
of-
conversation on the ship later, where they're like, all of them are like, what did we just let have happen? And let's actively cover up to make ourselves look better, you know. And also coming up with some sick, twisted way of justifying it by saying, oh, how are we going to break this girl's heart even more by taking responsibility for your actions, you know?
I'm really surprised that Indara said that.
Yeah.
I was kind of expecting her to be like, no. Like, no, we're going straight to the council. And perhaps the secret we would have then found out is that Vanestra didn't tell anybody. Like they told her.
Which I think what it is now is that she hears this story and is like, that can't be the whole story
Right.
for years and years and years, and that she's actually been trying to get Soul to tell her what actually happened for 26 years or whatever it is.
16.
Is it just 16?
I think it's just 16.
Okay. Well,
But yeah.
Both
yeah.
good
Yeah.
numbers.
No, but still, both are good numbers.
I think it's also worth. We were talking earlier about how affected for example, Kilnaka might have been by the mind control, and I get the feeling that it's very debilitating to have your mind controlled that way.
And probably very traumatizing.
Yeah, like the fact that it was this whole kneel thing, where it was this take.
That was Torben.
He had to actually give control in his case.
Right.
So we don't know what really happened in the mind of Kilnaka.
That was Torben, I think.
well, yeah, so that was with
Torben
Torben,
is
but
the
then
one who
Kilnaka, we
experienced
don't
the
know
kneel.
what he had.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't know, but things like
but
that
also,
are.
but also, it wasn't mind control per se. It was
Whole
like
group of them.
walking you through the steps to where you will agree to
Right.
do what I want you to do.
Because feeding on your own desire.
And so I don't know what. Yeah, we don't know what Kilnaka's thing was, but it may have been anything from he thought that he was fighting Sith Lords or something, or that he had been convinced that what he wanted to do was to fight these people.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a point when they said that, like, my mom could get in your mind and you could never get her out. I get the feeling that it doesn't just go.
Yeah.
Like, once you do it, once
Yeah, you have
that's
like a
done
parasite.
to you
Maybe that's the reason.
It's like
But
you can never
exorcism.
quite get away.
That's
so
what I'm
you're
saying, so
like,
maybe
because
that's why-
all of them maybe just like couldn't deal
It's
anymore.
the devil.
I mean, deciding to meditate for the rest of your life or like move to live completely by yourself in a cabin, those are really big decisions.
maybe he's got her in her head the whole time.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go live in a cabin.
He's just actually hanging out with her, like in
Enacting
forced
his
consciousness.
Yeah.
Desires. Was he
so
back on
that's how
Coruscant?
the
Did he
master
ever get back?
knew.
He's like, dude, this is actually totally fine. I'm actually doing great. Anyway, I wanted to just point out a little bit of like I like really loved and felt like some Dune vibes in that scene. Very like the voice, Neil. Like it felt like, you know, come here. You know, it felt.
Yeah, her voice
Yeah.
is so ferocious.
Yeah, and it felt, you know, she turned on a dime. Like she was like, give me the water. Yeah.
Yeah, and then she was like, run.
Yeah. There was that exactly. Run felt like it was very Dune inspired. I wonder if these
I
witches.
wonder what they did to her voice, or if she just can.
I
do
think
that.
she just
She has a
screamed.
deep voice
Yeah, and
as a human.
there was like some gravel in it too.
Yeah.
It was impressive.
I'll have
I
to
loved
listen to
it.
again.
Yeah,
And with
it's
the
very
whispering
cool.
all around and all that great stuff, kind
Very
of.
cool voice.
Yeah, I'm sure this would be a fun one to see in theaters, and because of the stereo effect of all that. Yeah.
Did we finish talking, or did we start talking about the ending credit song?
No, but maybe we should now.
Yeah, I think it's time.
Let's have a moment about it.
Yeah. All right.
I have a question.
Yes.
What was that drum machine, or like what was that set of sounds? Because it was precisely exactly the same as another song that I know.
What song?
It was an Erykah Badu song on her mixtape album, the one that's a play on Drake's cell phone song. It's ba 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 ba.
Oh.
Oh, it's probably
used to
just
call me
808s.
on my cell.
It
Yeah,
might
those
have
are just
been-
808
It was
cowbells
just like
or like
precisely.
Yeah, 808, 909, Roland.
Yeah, it made me wonder if
Yeah.
on Erica's album as well, I was like, it made me wonder if anyone was even pushing the buttons or if that was straight up a sample.
Huh, that's a good question.
Like
Was
that
it not
whole
just the
group?
like
might
it wasn't
have
just the
been,
sound,
like-
it was like the groove too.
yeah,
the groove.
exactly.
Oh,
Got
I
it,
mean
got it, got it,
that's
got it.
I wondered.
That's always funny because there's
That
a lot of
happens.
great pop songs out there that just ended up being made from the preset of the instrument itself. I know Clint Eastwood by Gorillaz was definitely a omnichord preset.
Yeah, and what do you call it? Genius of Love was the da dun 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 dun. That's just the second preset on the synthesizer that they were using.
Phil
What's the
Collins.
Erykah Badu song?
What was that? What's the Erykah Badu song called?
The Erykah Badu's cellular device.
Cellular. Oh, right. Yeah. Phil Collins, the In the Air Tonight is a slowed down cha-cha or something like that from the drum machine. It's like it's like one of the presets or something,
Yeah.
and he just like slowed
An
it down
actual
like crazy.
preset beat on the drum machine itself.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. But for those watching, these drum machines we're talking about came out in the 80s, and they kind of the most famous ones were the Roland TR-808, the TR-909, the 505, the 707. They all had these numbers and stuff like that, and they were used in so many songs, like genre bending in a sense. They were huge in underground techno. They were huge in underground hip hop.
Genre defining.
Genre
for
defining.
several
That,
years, you know?
genre defining. Which is
Genre
why when you hear
creating.
something like an 808, people are not actually referring to the drum machine anymore, but specifically the kick drum sound of an 808 machine, kind of a thing. So I don't know what it sounded like. Something like a very at this point stock drum machine.
It's very similar.
Is it an 808 or did you hear it?
It sounds like the clave sounds on an 808. And let's see, Hotline Bling, composition, pop song.
Hotline Bling is the Drake song, and
Song was
cellular
composed,
device is the
beats from
Erykah
image,
Badu song.
Song was Drams Cha Cha.
Oh,
It
there's
doesn't-
so many.
That's interesting. It doesn't say like the gear that they used for that. Usually they do.
Are you looking up Hotline Bling?
Yeah, because that's what that same. It's all from that.
Do you mean
It's-
just the
it's just a
instrument
take
or the
on
groove
the-
as well?
The instrument too. And
The
the
groove,
groove.
too?
Yeah, it's a cha-cha groove, which is chat do, and it's actually in Outkast's Pink and Blue as well. They have that same exact groove.
Is that a new song?
No, it was on The Love Below.
Okay.
Which is an Afro-Cuban salsa pattern. Yeah.
What characterizes that pattern as interesting to me is that it switches between two things, but where it steps, it's like ba ba ba, or like it's what am I trying to say? Like it's the same thing, but
Syncopated?
I guess I'm trying to make a
Different
comparison
pitch.
with the twins. So they change the pitch on the same thing, but
Like
it's
da
a-
da 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 do do da. Is that what you mean? Like it goes like
even
the,
smaller, like ba 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 ba, kind of like how a hemiola works, where you displace something that makes sense by one, and then it changes shape because of your displacement, and it's specifically grouped in twos. But I can see this. I'm
trying to-
sorry
I'm
that I can't.
I'm feeling
yeah.
the shape of what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm trying to gauge like what part of the
And the song was about
And it
the
sounds-
twin flames.
the part of the pattern that you're referring to. Yeah.
Do you mean like when it repeats, it's not like always the same parts on each beat? It's like you turned something and
the
Back to-
timbre changes, not at the same time as the pitch changes. And
Oh, I think they have a
because
filter on it. That's what it is. They
yeah,
have
and
it's a
they have
filter
like,
moving
because
filter.
of that
Yeah.
displacement, that causes this like feeling of two things.
That's interesting.
Two things.
Interesting.
That's a really cool observation of that. Yeah.
They
I'm
definitely.
glad that it came across.
Yeah,
Thank you for
Well, I just
pouring
would never think of it that way, and I really like appreciate the different perspective on
and
it.
did you mention the vocal harmonies kind of doing that? Like especially the second time the verse comes in and she says
Yeah.
the power of two or whatever it is. We have the power of a twin flame. The vocal harmony actually splits in different ways that it wasn't doing in verse one. Kind of thing. So it starts
Yeah.
to simulate. If not, what do
which
they
is,
call
which
it?
is not uncommon in pop
Oh, no.
generally, but it also it has
It played
significance
into
here.
the theme. Yeah.
Yeah.
They painted that one pretty bright right there.
That's true.
It's
yeah.
pretty interesting. Like the show is about twins, and they use the word twin in the song. You know.
I know, right?
wow.
Well, it's also
and I
interesting-
mean,
wait.
Hold on. What was everybody's feeling and reaction about the song? Because
Yeah.
we still have not done that one.
Yeah, I'll go first because I made that joke because I felt I found myself rolling my eyes because of the egregious on the noseness of the lyrics and the. Okay, I'll say this. Everyone loves Encanto. I'm really sorry if I end up making a lot of people mad at this opinion, but I love the A section of Encanto. There's a bridge in there that goes
a song
from
from
the
Louis?
Bruno song.
Bruno, okay.
That
We don't talk about
classic song.
Bruno.
We
Yeah.
didn't talk about Bruno. Yeah,
And there's a B section in that tune that it goes 1 5 6 4 chord, just like every like pop song over the last 10 years,
Right.
And same thing on Moana is that same
1 5
6
6
6 4.
4.
Yeah, it's the four chords
four
of pop,
chord songs.
right? And it's to a point where it's like distracting in Disney songs. And this did not happen in this particular song in terms of its chord progression, but there's some Disney-ness of the popness of it to it, like the commercial glitzy. This sounds like a top 40 pop song. It's kind of like, and usually when you go to watch a movie these days, it's in the second half of the credits.
Right.
You know what I mean?
They push it back now.
They've eased out the score of the credits, and then they bring in the commercial pop song that they commissioned for this. And
James, do you know who did it?
it's what's her name?
Victoria Monet.
Victoria Monet,
Who did
right?
just win Best New Artist at the Grammys.
Great. No, and I
Nice.
have to say that the song itself, like I don't like mind the song. It's like as a song, but I think just that it has a little bit of I don't know. It just
No, I just mentioned that because you said it sounds like the top 40 type of thing, and so this is like a pop.
It is
Oh,
very
I
much a
see.
top
Yeah,
40 kind of
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a cool song. I mean, there's definitely cool textures in it, and she's got an amazing voice, like undeniable.
Yeah.
But yeah,
She writes a lot of Ariana Grande's songs.
Got it. Yeah, there's just a little level
that's
of just
cool.
like it feels a lot like some cool people are like, hey, you want to come into our you're gonna do something for Star Wars, and then she comes into and she does this like pop song, and everyone is just like saying yes in the studio. It's like, this is awesome, this is perfect, and then it goes out and then it's like feels like all the fans they like that feels like you missed the boat on who your
That
audience
said,
is on that.
much better than Gaia on the
Yes, it felt like a Galaxy's Edge Star Wars movie.
Should have been.
Yeah, or music, you know.
Now,
Okay,
did you know about it going into it?
no.
Okay. That makes sense.
We're gonna ask each person as we
Okay,
go.
so that's my opinion. It's a fine song. I don't have a big problem with it. It just feels like it kind of feels like corporate gobbledygook is what it felt like. So
All right. You can go next, Christina.
I appreciated the beat. I thought I was bumping my toe to it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the feeling of a pop song at the end. Just it.
Okay. So
allows me to comment.
appreciating the beat was not damning with faint praise.
No.
Okay. Yeah. It was just where you were
It
starting.
was straightforward. Yes.
Yeah.
And I okay, where was I going with that? I enjoyed that it was a pop song because that allowed me to take a step back from all the drama that happened. It was kind of like having just something else completely different and
It was like a complete
super
palette
different
cleanser.
perspective. It was just kind of like, we're gonna send you here now. Like, you don't have to worry about all that stuff. And I appreciated the quality of the vocalist. I enjoyed her voice. I would have liked to see more development from verse to verse, and I really would have liked to see more development as the choruses progressed. Perhaps maybe, I don't know, maybe I don't know, maybe I'm just used to listening to things that have a lot more variation, and so I'm sort of biased in that sense. It's quite possible. I typically get annoyed with a refrain that goes on too long, unless I like singing that refrain. But I'm not going to be karaokeing, "You're my twin." You're not going to catch me karaokeing it.
For sure.
But I like the vibe.
I want to just, because I kind of feel, I just gathered another opinion based on what you just said, which was like, I also feel like I would have rather just sat in the credits feeling that emotion of the revelation that we just got from Soul, but instead I was scratching my head and nodding my head to a beat. It feels like the wrong episode that this should be. It felt like a contractual obligation that it was like included. Like, that's what it felt.
Did.
Felt like I was watching a contract be signed I was listening to a contract be signed.
I would have
You know?
liked this in like at the end of episode 1.
Yeah.
Really?
Like,
Or maybe not, because then I'd be like, because the show could be like a pop
or like
show.
2. I don't know. Like it would have been. Maybe it could have snuck in earlier, but maybe it. Yeah, I don't know. Like, everyone knows that once you watch the penultimate episode, you're going to watch the last episode.
Yes.
You're not losing any viewers.
Yeah, I'm probably
that point.
being a little insufferable in my hipsterdom right now, but that's my vibe. Justin, what'd you think?
I don't know. I'm trying to spin it in the way
Flashlight.
that it doesn't just sound like I hate everything in the world.
Yeah.
Do it. No,
which
I
is
unleash
no,
it.
which is no. So I really liked the song. I thought it was a fine song, like as a composition, as a creation, as a thing that exists in this world, kind of a thing. I think was really, really interesting. And for me to say, I don't want pop music in my Star Wars is wrong, because it's like, well, why not? What is Star? And we can go down that whole rabbit hole,
Agreed.
kind of a thing. And that's something we've already done a billion times on this stream, kind of a thing. So the fact that there is a pop song in Star Wars does not like bug me, kind of a thing. Like I don't think that's where it falls flat for me. I think I agree with James, and kind of what Christina was saying, that it feels like, let's just throw this in here, and that it's going to be. I don't feel like this is going to go down in Star Wars music history, other than the fact that there was a pop song and a Star Wars song.
Right.
Like, I don't think it's is significant enough of a contribution out of the left field, perhaps, kind of a thing. And it just kind of goes into like the tonal shift of like the tonal inconsistency of what's happening. Yeah. I agree, though. I think it would have been way more effective for me, if this was the next episode. This was the wrap up. This was the quote unquote ending pop song from the 90s.
Just put in the
from
second
the
half of the
80s,
credits next week.
and we got a thing. It's just I think also part of it for me is that it hails to like one of my least favorite parts of this show, which is the power of one, the power of two, the power of many, and then coming in and sampling
and
some
like
of that
singing
choir.
it, right?
So it kind of is like, wow, we're really hitting this one home, aren't we, guys? Like,
Right.
they're twins. There's two of them. We are one and the same, but we're different because we have the power of two, which is like, okay, yes, I get it. I'm curious. I think I would have enjoyed this more if there were no lyrics.
For sure.
Because I think...
Or like
what,
Star Wars language lyrics, maybe.
But in the same sense of like what you just also said, after everything we just heard and watched and saw, maybe have the instrumental version of this play,
Sure.
and then the next episode we add the lyrics.
The lyrics, right.
Kind of a thing. And then I think it would have tonally worked better with what was going on versus all this shift, all these crazy things, all these emotions, and then you're my twin flame, which is just like, fine, okay, cool, it felt like a corporate sense of like, and now we're gonna add the song
that we paid this artist to do and that we want to promote and we get people to stream. Like
kind
it
of
feels
a thing.
again, it feels just very like
And
it's trying to sell us a little toy, a musical toy, if you will.
Exactly. Yeah. And in answering another question, yes, I did know that this song existed, and actually I did listen to the song when it was released 5 episodes ago, which was also an interesting marketing play to release the song. Obviously with the soundtrack, that the first half of the soundtrack that was coming out, but they still could have saved it.
I believe they released it before the soundtrack.
You're right. They did release it before the soundtrack, which is even more surprising to me because it's like, it also comes very close to, I mean, not to get into the whole discourse of what's been happening with the fandom between the cast and like the creators and stuff like that, but it also came very close to when the lead actress released her own response.
Yeah, which was
song.
awesome in my opinion.
Wait, what did?
Amanda Studberg wrote a tune to.
It might have been interpreted as a response to the fandom, but I
don't think it was to the fandom
or to whatever. But it wasn't explicitly. It was more about.
It was about bigger and better things like that.
Things,
and I liked what she was conveying.
It was awesome.
But I didn't like the music at all in that. Personally, it wasn't my style. It wasn't my jam, and I didn't particularly think it was all that fantastic. But
music and what?
Amanda Studberg's song.
Oh,
she released her own song in response to media thing, not specifically Acolyte fandom craziness, but like to a number of things. Okay. So and then to have this song come so close to that kind of a thing was like kind of interesting.
Agreed. Yeah, like next week, if it was in the second half of the credits and all of us are just watch the show happen and we're all feeling pumped in the show and we could be not bobbing our head to it, would be like, yes, turns out it was Darth Maul all along. Like we wouldn't have been really excited, with all the revelations that happen next week.
But would you really, I guess it could go either way and maybe it would be even more upsetting if it were happening in the final episode. Like maybe we would want to sit with whatever happens.
They should have just put a QR code on the screen and say, listen to this song on Spotify
right here.
I guess putting it here meant that at least they didn't have to ruin anyone's finale. I'm not saying it ruined it for me. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And I just want to add one more thing before I pass it along. It's funny, though, that I'm also having, and some of us are having this reaction to this, when we also had a very interestingly similar-ish reaction to the breakdown drum beat at the end of that Andor episode where we're like, what
was that?
Drums in my Star Wars?
Oh, no, I didn't have that reaction.
I'm just saying some of us did.
Like a shocked reaction.
It was a shocked reaction. It wasn't
but maybe not as negative though.
It wasn't. No.
It was really positive.
It wasn't as negative, but it was also of like a moment of like, what is this? What was this? We're having pop music in there, and it was a different discussion. And I think it was also that it didn't have like lyrics.
like I'm thinking like
in a pop format.
Matthew brought up a point. Is like, could this have been a diegetic song? I would find that be hard to. You'd have to change the lyrics for sure.
Yeah.
Just some like psychic.
There's just a bard on the street that is viewing everything, and it's just.
It's like a Monty Python sketch, like somebody just singing the exact thing going along with their life. Sir Brave, Sir Robin. But
why don't we get Ender's take now?
Yeah, sorry.
No.
Anyway, so that's
that's
my opinion on this.
Okay.
What about your take?
Mine?
Yeah.
Okay. I unfortunately already knew about it, and I found out about it. I almost made it with being surprised. I almost made it to being surprised, but I was actually consciously looking up Victoria Monet to put one of her songs on a playlist, and so when I went to her Spotify page, I saw that, and I was like, oh man, what are the odds?
That's funny.
Of that happening.
It's okay to know things before things happen.
Well, it actually made it.
I just want that to be clear.
I don't think I didn't have as negative a reaction as you, but because I expected it. I was just like curious to hear the song, most of all. Mm-hmm. I do think like if it were my first time hearing it, then I may have been taken aback a little bit. And I do think generally I would prefer to sit in my feelings, let the last scene sink in general. So
did you listen to it beforehand?
No.
Right.
I do think it would be funny if there were spoilers in the song.
In the song all along.
Turns out it was Manny Jacinto's character all along.
You are my chimera, come here. You are my stranger.
Yeah, so my reaction, I knew about it maybe first of everybody.
Okay.
And I knew what episode it was going to be in because they also said that in an interview, which is another wild thing to put in an interview weeks ago. So I knew that it was going to be in the 7th episode. That's why the thumbnail to this episode is purple, just like the cover art for the single, is because I knew what.
Oh man, that makes me feel even more like it makes me feel even more like resolved in my this is like I feel like I'm being sold something with this like being in the credits, you know.
Well, so I have a few mixed feelings about it. I liked that it was. I liked that they decided that it was appropriate to add. They decided, yes,
Let's
we're
try
going to commit to
something.
this.
Yeah.
And it was the showrunners who said, "Can we get a pop song for this?" And it wasn't a Disney top-down decision. It was Leslie Headland and company decided that they wanted this. They actually said, "Can we get pop songs?"
Yes.
This is, as far as I know, the only one. But I do think that it felt maybe out of place in this episode, like because it's not the end and because it's a big emotional reveal.
Yeah.
And I think that the song would have been. I think that the song's inclusion I would have liked more if it were integral to the show. Because as it stands, if you had any other music for this end credits, it would not, I think, significantly change the show.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it should be that you cannot remove the song from the credits without fundamentally altering the show. I think it should have had spoilers. I think it should have like core thematic material that you must that you must get by its inclusion. And I know that that's like maybe asking too much. That like there's a lot of things where it's like
It's a cool idea, though.
I would
It
have
is.
done this differently, and it's like I was not in any of the rooms where these
Right.
decisions were made.
Like, I would have
I
tried to tell
probably
the
would not
entire
have done anything differently because I could not have.
Right.
It's kind of like the ending songs to those games Portal, where they like reveal interesting things.
Yes,
at
I
the
think
end.
that the
Yeah.
credit songs for Portal are a perfect example of. It is actually like the reason I played Portal was because those songs existed.
Yeah.
Right,
actually.
right. And
And
Oh,
to be
did we
fair,
lose camera?
Yeah, I'm switching battery now.
but they can hear us.
Yep.
All right, cool. Yeah.
everybody switch sides quick.
So, okay, so yeah, I think Portal's a great example of that, which is like because those emotionally make you wrap up that story. Like that song that happens at the end of the first Portal.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's the one with the cake, right? The Still Alive, right? It feels like an end song because I'm still alive. Like it feels like you're like singing something like exciting and draining has happened to you. This did not feel that way. This wasn't a somber like pop song that makes us be in our feelings. It felt like it made me feel like
And it didn't feel
Like I
too
was-
much like Kiss from a Rose from Batman Forever, where it was
Right.
like, well, how did this song end up in this film? But it ended up like becoming this massive hit kind of
Yes.
thing. This felt like I wanted to do this, so here it is.
Right.
Here's another thing to this thing.
It was Kiss from a Rose intended for the Batman film?
Yeah.
Is that how it
Yeah.
no, actually it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. But
It
it
wasn't. It was
Just a placement.
selected for it. It's a
It was
sync.
selected.
sync
It was a
and
sync thing.
It was released. Like the music video for it is
Batman, which is
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah. Yeah, it's like it was
So
it was
it was-
co-opted and then
Yeah.
branded as it was like Seal was like, what am I gonna do with this weird song I wrote? And then
okay.
somebody picked it up for Batman and then was like,
kind of like
can
the Smash Mouth song
Ye-
in
Yes, and Mystery Men.
Mystery Men.
Yeah.
Dude,
Right.
Then they
it's
made
from,
that.
It's from Mystery Men.
Yeah, which is really funny. Now it's the Shrek song. But
Oh yeah.
So I feel that. Like I feel like I just wish the song felt like. Well, isn't there Andor, which I understand that boom that one, whatever it was called, that doesn't have lyrics in it. That's not a pop song, but it is like a jam.
And it was intended to be like
It's diegetic, right?
like kind of diegetic in the sense
was
that it was
diegetic,
a
yeah.
song
Diegetic
that
sometimes.
existed.
But then was it not added to a credit sequence?
Oh, it definitely was.
It was, right?
I
Wasn't
think it first. I can't remember.
it was the beginning beach scene. It was like they showed the
Yeah.
beach that he was on, but then I'm pretty
Neosmos.
sure that they
Neomos.
added it as credit music for one of the episodes, and
I
it
think you're
felt fitting in that
It
episode.
also first played in the first scene of
Yeah,
the first
in
episode.
the bar.
In the bar.
Yeah, in the bar,
He's
in the
looking for his
nightclub.
sister.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember us talking about that.
And it plays in a couple different
Was
styles.
it the same track or was it like a different version?
There's different remixes.
There's
It was like a
yeah.
remix, right? Yeah.
But there's different. It's a popular song that is played differently and covered by different people.
Yeah.
Is the I think Indian
Similar
Rhapsody.
to Erykah Badu covering Hotline Bling, actually.
Did she?
This Christina was just talking about it.
Oh, it's a cover of Hotline.
Well, it's what do you call it?
It interpolates.
Interpolation. That's the right word for it. Kind of similar how like Eminem just did that with Houdini, and with the Steve Miller Band song. Yeah, but yeah, I just want to throw this out here for a second and just recognize with like the grump, that I just approached that is that I'm also like not a kid, a young person. I'm an old crusty 30-year-old white dude, right? And like with like lots of like grumpy Star Wars opinions. I'm not a young person that like would love to hear like an awesome pop song from one of their favorite pop singers like in a Star Wars show.
Are you assuming that younger people would prefer the pop song?
I think
it's possible.
Yes.
I am assuming that. I can recognize
Okay.
that is an assumption, but I
Okay.
am assuming that because I do think Top 40's music historically is always targeted towards teens and people in their.
I don't think Victoria Monet's music quite fits the top 40 archetype, even though I was kind of drawing a comparison before.
Well, yeah, I'm just.
Okay, yeah.
But still,
Your big point.
What he's saying is that we are not the best judges
Right.
for whether or not this lands,
Right.
because we are not 7 years old,
Yeah.
20
Or
years
a
from
teenager,
now,
or,
retrospectively looking back on this cool
Or
time.
YA audience
they
or
put-
whatever, like.
Did you ever like the pop music at the end of Disney movies? I never did. As a kid.
So yeah, I'm totally willing to
Depending on
I think
which one
that
it was.
there's a marketing decision, right, of what it's going, but there's definitely kids like you or me that like.
But
might
what's
flip
in-
Like I just
outside of
want the
that
way
grain.
that it's in this. I just want the way that it's in the movie. I don't want.
Well, but that's the
Sure.
other thing is that at the end of all those Disney movies, it's a popified version of a song
true,
that was
so-
in the film. I
That's
mean,
true.
remember that gave us Christina Aguilera.
Right.
That was her big break with
Reflection?
singing with reflections at the end credits, kind of a thing.
I was obsessed with Will Smith when I was a kid. Like obsessed with Will Smith. There was like a couple years where I like had like the Big Willie style album. I was listening to Men in Black on repeat. I literally called myself Agent J and would dress up in a suit with like sunglasses. Like those songs in those movies were for like me, like a little boy that just wanted to be cool, like the guy from Wild Wild West. Okay, and so like I recognize that somebody might have watched those movies. I'm like, what is this freaking song in this movie? And I was just like, yes, play me Wild Wild West, wiki 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 Wild Wild West. You know what I mean? Like, so
Okay. So at least several members of the Backstreet Boys were filmed for Attack of the Clones as Jedi during the arena.
Oh, we could
Nobody's
have
been
had-
able to confirm whether any of the footage ended up in
Really?
the movie.
that's awesome.
But would you have liked in 2002 the Backstreet Boys to do a pop song at the end?
Well, I was like a
I would have
punk
been
in 2012, so not the
pissed.
Backstreet Boys. Now, if Slipknot did,
Oh yeah,
appeared,
it just kind of out of nowhere just starts.
then yes.
Didn't they appear in Rollerball, the Rollerball remake?
I do not know.
There was a Rollerball remake.
Really?
Or Slipknot appears in a
wild. I
brief
love it.
moment. It's a awfully wonderfully terrible movie.
I put my lightsaber into my eyes.
You just scared the cat.
I mean, we did get Jedi Rocks. Jedi Rocks was a fun poppy.
Yep,
retcon
and I have to recognize
diegetic.
that the fact that that wasn't the pop music of my time that I watched it, like it was more 80s sounding.
Yeah.
What, Jedi Rocks or Laptunak?
We're talking about
Jedi Rock.
Jedi Rocks, right?
Okay, yeah.
Like that was of a genre that wasn't contemporary to when I watched it for the first time, that it didn't bother me at the moment, and this feels very contemporary, and that's like maybe if you rewatch this show in 10 years, people will be like, oh, that's a cool little throwback little jam, you know? It feels
Well, if
retro.
it's contemporary, then it feels worse for you.
Yeah, because it
Okay.
feels like it's way too current, right?
Gotcha.
Do
Okay.
you want to move the Anakin label?
I do. Thank you so much for
We got to watch
being aware
Anakin.
of that. Yeah.
Kind of a thing. Well, it's
Yeah.
interesting because that just calls into question like what time frame, what kind of pop music would not feel contemporary to a galaxy far, far away,
Right.
that we recognize,
Right.
kind of thing. Because like if they just came in with some like straight up Caravan Palace electro swing, is that robot-y enough? Is that droidy enough, kind of a thing,
Yeah.
or is it like why are you guys playing 30s swing with a beat, kind of a thing? Like what the heck is happening here? What
I
would
think it matters whether it's diegetic or non-diegetic, and I also think the shows I have more leniency than the
Totally.
movies.
Yeah, and
Because Disney Plus, everything
Yeah.
on it feels so contemporary a lot.
It feels super contemporary. And what's also really interesting is that I think in a weird way this does fit because there is a lot of
I was
current.
I'll address that in a second.
I feel like the Acolyte is like touching on so many current events happening within America, within Hollywood, within all sorts of things that it's not pretending to just be a galaxy far, far away. It's taking our Earth kind of issues and projecting them into this Star Wars story a little bit more bluntly, perhaps, than, of course, like we can make comparisons to, Nazis, Vietnam War, and all these other things like that, but so bluntly that it kind of makes sense that a contemporary pop tune of this genre and style would like appear
Yeah,
at some point.
I agree. Matthew Cassette calls out, note the Acolyte like it isn't a kid show. And I think when I was bringing up young people, I was thinking more teenagers. I was thinking more 15-year-olds. I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody what to show their kid, but I feel like this is probably an appropriate show for 14 to 15-year-olds and up.
Yeah,
I
he's not
watched a
showing
lot of
it.
stuff when I was a kid,
Yeah.
so I'm maybe not the best judge
Yeah,
either.
me neither. I can understand maybe not showing this to your 9-year-old, but I think it could be okay for teenagers.
Yeah, preteen maybe.
It feels like a YA show. That's what I'm saying. It feels like the same people that would be into Twilight or some of the YA novels of the High
Yes.
Republic. Like I feel like this is like that. That's hitting that demo.
That's interesting because a critique that I've seen, a nicer critique I've seen of the show is that it's very CW of a show kind of a
Okay.
thing where
Interesting.
it gives, it's very much has that CW, The Flash, Supergirl,
Sure. And I can see that in its production
in
quality.
its, right, in its production
don't.
quality,
Like-
and a bit of
Go
its,
on.
and a lot of its, and a
Well, I
lot of
just
its
meant there's
writing.
moments that feel cheap to me, and I think that's where when I think of those shows, I think like, oh, that could look more expensive than it looks right now.
Did you
know?
watch Supergirl and stuff?
I've seen bits of The Flash before.
Okay.
And this
I haven't
there's-
seen either
Not
of
saying
those.
not all of it. There's been plenty of that's been like they look great. But there's been moments where I'm like that. Like I feel like I again. I mean, I have
It's
like,
it's that Sci-Fi Channel original movie production
and
quality.
I felt
kind of a
that
thing.
I felt that way about Book of Boba Fett. I
Yeah.
felt that way about like the episode of The Mandalorian that Jack Black was in for some
Lizzo?
reason, and I felt that way. You know,
I'm still convinced they just walked on set and no one knew what to do. And they're just like, just start filming.
that was nuts. That was nuts.
And that was before all the Lizzo drama.
Yeah, I felt that way
Yeah.
about Obi-Wan in some moments.
Mhm.
I recognize COVID had a lot to do with those particular shows. It didn't for this show necessarily. So yeah, I definitely feel the production quality complaints. Yeah.
The Great Disaster
Oh yeah.
was mentioned.
Yeah, they mentioned the
Oh,
High
yeah,
Republic thing.
So
Oh,
that was
sorry.
100 years before?
They didn't
Great
say the Great
Disaster?
Disaster, but I'm
They said a
assuming they're-
hyperspace disaster or a hyperspace.
Yeah, hyperspace disaster 100 years ago,
And that
which
was
is
yeah.
rounding.
in 200 years ago before the Phantom Menace. 200 years before is around when those
that
books took
lines
place.
up. That lines
Yeah.
up with the High Republic.
Dope.
One, right?
Dude,
Okay.
I caught that. I was like, no,
I
I don't
think
think
so.
that's right. Okay, cool. I'm glad to hear that. I've read two books, and that means that one was for me.
Yeah.
You know?
Because the one you read starts with the Great Disaster.
That's a great book,
I don't know
man.
this one.
I really like
Light of the Jedi he's
Jedi.
talking
I
about.
really like it. It's got my favorite Jedi in it. So
Which
who's
one?
that?
Avar Chris, baby, golden retriever
And
of
why
of
is
Jedi.
And is that why she's your favorite?
Yeah, I just identify with her. She like sees the Force as music
She's the
and
perfect
stuff.
Jedi, so
I love her.
so James identifies.
We're gonna get married one day.
You and Vanessa, or you and me?
No, me and Avar Chris.
But you are Avar Chris.
I know. I just kind of get one. I'm like.
Are you gonna be a symbiote?
Yeah, I really just want to. I'm like May and Osho with Avar
With
Chris.
Avar
You know. I'm gonna burn the place down if I can't have her. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Is that a good ending note?
She's my twin flame.
Okay. I want to read this quote from an article Michael Abels is saying, since the two flashback episodes on Brendock show wildly different points of view, Abels used the score to accentuate those varied emotions playing out during some of the same sequences. It's a real Rashomon moment in storytelling, Abels said. I think shot by shot, you can see things that are visually the same in both episodes and also musically different. Yeah, so that's kind of what we were saying earlier, is like sometimes some of them is like the same, some parts are the same, but some parts musically were different. And I think, let's see, later on, the Force doesn't have its own specific theme for the series, as Abel sought instead to relate the mystical energy binding the galaxy to individual characters on their own journeys. A gentle flute theme might accompany one character using the Force for good, while Abel's seeded some of the driving beats and horror-inspired motifs he's known for in relation to the Stranger. And I think that's like when Soul is using it, you know, why the Kylo theme shows up when Soul is using it in that one part. But I think this is a cool, like intentional thing to do. It's just, and I like that idea. Is like having flashbacks using same shots even, or but with different music. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Can someone tell me, like, does I don't know Rashomon's work very well. Does Rashomon suffer from like the when people refer to out of order storytelling as Tarantinoing, even though he only did
Rashomon is a film.
It's a movie.
Oh right.
is-
Oh sorry, I thought
is-
it was the name of a filmmaker. Okay, you can
And
see.
it's a surprisingly short film. I think it's in under 90 minutes.
Okay,
long, and it's by Kurosawa.
Well, there you go. That answers my question. For some reason, I've never seen obviously Rashomon. I always thought Rashomon was the name of a filmmaker. So now I've been clarified.
There's a, Akira Kurosawa does not have that.
Use that effect.
Does not have that problem as a filmmaker. People know multiple things about him.
Yeah, people. It's so funny. Tarantino's done the out of order thing maybe twice in his whole career, and everyone thinks that like Tarantino is just like does that all the time. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, cool.
Okay, here's a little review of the Power of Two song.
By who?
Yeah, I'll tell you.
You?
No.
They've been writing this.
Yeah, this whole time
This
I've been writing a
entire
blog
time.
post. It's from The Dork Side by Kaki Olson.
Dork
Yeah,
Side.
so I'm just going to not read the whole thing, but the opening vocalizations sound like melodic breath, while a keening background wail gives the song's opening a ritual feel. In the chorus, backing vocals in unison split into two as a mirror to the Anisea sisters. The melody starts in the lower registers but rises and falls with the emotional beats of the music. More intriguing is the ambiguity of the lyrics. The message could be a reflection of either sister's mindset. We have seen the lives that each led after believing that they had lost each other, and know that one was marked by grief and the other by her grudge. In episode 3, we see this take a dark and possessive note as May begins a fire to keep her sister from escaping the fortress with her Jedi. We still don't know what caused Osha to leave the Jedi or how Master used May's trauma for their own purposes, but the song speaks to their dependence on each other and the conflict they feel. So part of me will die with you, and I think it's going to be the good parts. Don't want to feel at all, thick skin, big scars, and we're so one and the same, so all my pain is your pain.
I dig that.
So
review or
Twin flame, I feel
description?
the shame when they call me your name. Twin flame, and you feel the same when they say you to blame. Twin flame, I feel the shame when they call me your name. Twin flame, why work with myself when it's a losing game?
Wild, Wild West.
Ha 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 ha. Yeah, it's yeah.
I mean, that's a good description of what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
that
a-
part's
that's-
not a review, but sometimes as part of a review, you have to explain what happened.
Yeah, it's a good play-by-play. I'm curious what the opinion is versus the talkback of it.
I think it's like a take. Or I think it's an interpretation.
Yeah, it's more of a
It's saying it's good because it makes sense with the lore, right?
Yeah.
of the
Monet
show.
further explores this inner conflict and confusion by challenging, where was your heart when you were destiny apart? We have already seen the sisters turned against each other philosophically. The consequence of this is when May continues the witch's legacy of opposing the Jedi, but neither of them has explored what must happen now that they have faced each other again. Anyway, yeah, it's an interpretation. I think it's a valid, good interpretation of the song.
Cool.
Yeah. And it does confirm we did talk about this for episode 3, whether Mother Anastasia meant it when she said basically that she was going to let her join, and
She would.
and I think some of us did
And she
think
kind
so.
of made it a dying wish also, which I think also changes. I think Sol is still in a tough spot. Like when Indara is like, no, don't tell the council because that will ruin her thing. Ruin Osha's thing. I'm like,
What do we all-
I think Sol is in a tough spot there because he also has Anastasia's dying wish that you must train her, more or less, in not so many words.
Yes.
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 Anyway, my mom texted me saying she jumped into the stream and that she likes. My mom said, I like Christina's voice and the guys that dominate. So, don't know what she meant by that, but all right.
Speak up, Christina.
It was an and, it wasn't a but. It was an and.
I see.
Just jump in there.
Is that like
I
the
will
ladies
speak
who
up if you
lunch?
tell
It's like
me.
the guys that dominate.
Just jump
Guys
in there,
that
Christina.
dominate.
Come on. Don't let the guys dominate.
It's like the name of a romance novel. The guys that dominate.
Oh my God, that's really funny.
Christina's voice and the guys that dominate.
I'm seeing them live in concert. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
It's Christina's voice and the guys that dominate.
That could also be like a Depeche Mode album or something.
I think I think we're good for this episode. Can't wait for the finale, honestly. I'm excited to see where it goes.
I just want to find out what happens when Osha puts on that helmet. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be honest. That's my biggest.
Right.
Okay,
That part of the storyline is more underdeveloped than I expected at this moment.
Yeah, I have to say, we
Yeah.
have one episode
So,
left.
Yeah.
so for
It
our
better be
final,
long. It better be long.
It better be long.
It's
It
probably
better
gonna
be
be
long,
long.
or a
good,
cliffhanger,
or just really,
or
really
just
good.
give us
It
a
could
second
just be really
season,
good.
homie.
So
You know?
from like 0 to 10 of like, I am safely on the ground to I have fallen off a cliff. How big of a cliffhanger do you think we're gonna get in this next episode? From like essentially no cliffhanger to like we're clearly hoping for a second season here.
I'm guessing 2.
A two of like
We
okay,
are firmly on the cliff.
we're firmly on the cliff.
We're a
but
little too
but
close to the end.
But
to
we're
the
looking
ledge.
over it. We're looking over it.
Yeah,
perhaps.
we're a little too
But we're
close
still
to the edge
on the
for
cliff.
like total comfort.
Okay.
Same question to the
But
chat.
it's over.
Yeah, I would say it's like I dropped my my pencil off the cliff, or my keys, maybe my keys.
You tested.
Yeah,
the
like I
splash
don't really know
range,
how
you
I'm
know.
getting home, but I didn't fall off the cliff. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Christina, what do you think?
I suppose I'll be on the cliff, but I don't know. It depends on what part of it they leave hanging, because some things I probably don't care about as much as like what you might care about. So I don't know.
Totally.
I think I'll be kind of 5.
I was gonna say 5 too.
right
I think
down
they're
the
gonna
middle.
I
wrap.
don't think I'm gonna be that on the cliff. I think I'll be
I think I'm holding on. I haven't fallen.
And I think
but,
it'll be like a matter of if I turn the prism one way or like from one point of view, I'm on the cliff. From one, I'm really not surprised.
you know, kind of a thing where
Yeah, this show
they'll wrap up the story, but they're gonna leave it very open for another thing, kind of.
behind the scenes. Unfortunately, this show, unlike the Ahsoka show, where the Ahsoka show left it on a cliffhanger, and if they really wanted to, they could address some of those things with the Mandalorian movie.
Oh, right.
But instead, they're gonna get another season. But
Right.
this show doesn't have that option. Like, it's very they don't have like other High Republic visual media that they can satisfy the fans with who want a story to
and
end.
that's good.
You know, so I think that it would be a bad move if they left it on it like a resolution breaking cliffhanger for the fans.
Matthew says, I want to find out how Osha reacts to Soul killing her mother. I think she will totally go to the dark side when she finds that out.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I
right.
think it's so
agree.
inevitable that I almost don't want to see it.
Yeah.
Unless it's done so, like, I don't know.
I mean, we'll find out.
I guess it does have potential to be like Khaleesi in Game of Thrones.
I don't know what.
Like, it's like, we're
Totally.
going to not
I
tell
don't-
you
I
what's
don't
going to
know
go
about
on
that.
until the
I
very
mean, maybe
end.
that's the
and then we're just
cliffhanger
gonna
is
do
like
the
we-
most predictable, least interesting way that it could happen.
really? Is that
That's
what
kind of how it
Yeah,
was.
like they're just
Yeah.
checking plot boxes.
They were like,
Ah.
check, she goes crazy. Check, she tries to kill people. Check.
Yep.
Season done.
That was rough. That was rough.
Didn't they like abandon that season to go write Star Wars, and then
And
when
then
the
they didn't get
season
Star Wars?
failed, they were like, "Yeah, you're not writing Star Wars."
Yeah,
That's all
they
rumors
did.
and speculation.
I like the rumor and speculation.
It's fact,
Hearsay.
according to
It's abs-
Factopedia.
Factopedia. I like Factopedia.
Oh, by the way, last point, real quick, as I'm reading your Discord.
Yeah,
That planet, I said it was definitely Octo.
definitely not.
I've been reading some things lately that lead me to believe it's not, and in fact, I'm pretty sure Leslie Headland said it's
she
not
said,
Octo.
she said it's
Yeah.
not. She said
So,
it's not.
but I think it was it sounds like she was purposely trying to make it like Octo, because my understanding that there is some planet in like Legends that like Darth Plagueis and the Sith were hanging out on.
Yeah, the Darth Plagueis book begins with the.
And there
he's
were-
a cortosis miner. with
There's
his
like a
dad or
cortosis
something,
miner, right?
I think.
So,
I think.
just want to throw that out there. Correct the record from last week. So.
Cortosis connection is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
The relationship
Yeah.
of cortosis, the substance, to the Force,
Mm-hmm.
and the use of it. I guess. So I'm assuming. I guess it's a metallic substance? Question mark. My first assumption of
I
it
think
was from
so,
the
yeah.
Zahn books.
From a Thrawn
Yeah.
Alliances.
Yeah, from
Wow.
Thrawn Alliances.
Is it in those books?
Yeah.
It really is.
So I gotta read
And,
these Thrawn books.
But it was woven into fabrics
Yeah.
and plastoids at the time,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Because
instead
it's
of-
not a very stable metal on its own.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Interesting.
It doesn't work as normal armor, only as lightsaber armor.
Yeah, I mean, his helmet did
Interesting.
get
Because it's
knocked
something
off
that
pretty
how it interacts with the crystal or
promptly.
something like that.
It absorbs energy at an extremely
Jackie
high.
kind of just.
I see. Got it. Got it.
Jack.
Okay,
I'll tell
these
you
are
more
my
about
Oh, Jackie.
cortosis later.
These are literally my 4 notes from Thrawn Alliances that are in my notes. Oh, sorry. Nope. I need to not give spoilers. Never mind.
Yeah, those are terrible.
Nope. Don't do it.
Well,
No.
Unfortunately-
the second one is not. It's not.
unfortunately, they
Wait,
can
I
pause the
think-
video.
I think we all know that the first. I think we all know that these 2 characters are the same.
Wait a
person.
second. Wait a second. Are you Vader?
Stop it! Stop it. Okay. Anyway.
I didn't know that Vader was your cat.
Matthew says, I guess 3 out of 10. I think quite a
3
number
out
of
of 10.
things will wrap up, but then some really big cliffhanger parts.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I hope doesn't get wrapped up. Those pecs on Manny Jacinto, you know what I'm saying? Right?
Oh yeah.
Unleash the pecs.
Yeah.
Apparently, he was shown a costume with half sleeves on it, and he was like, "No,"
Really?
and insisted on no sleeves.
Good.
No
He better be
sleeves.
shirtless the entire finale.
I think
would
he
be
would agree
fast.
with you.
Yeah.
He just him and Soul just getting just disrobes. Like,
They just like
fight
keep,
me
Yeah.
with
keep
all of
cutting
your
off
might.
clothing with their
Yeah, first
lightsabers.
their robes, and then they're
Attack
like, actually,
They should do a Mask of Zorro.
Yes.
Sword fight.
Yeah, with Catherine Zeta-Jones in that, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
what happens?
One
to
of
that?
them needs to be attacked.
Yeah,
Do
she
they
keeps like
cut
cutting
their clothes
yeah.
off. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Attacked while bathing.
That's like a sacred place that you should never be attacked.
They'll get
Really?
buzz cuts. That's
Yes,
what
don't watch
That's true.
Psycho.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, thanks for joining the stream. This was fun, and we'll see you next week for the Acolyte episode 8. Put my fancy screens on here. And then also, I did leave out one comment, but we'll address it at the end of, we'll address this more next episode, is all the intros, how they've changed. I would also
Yeah.
like a YouTube video.
That'd
I
be
would
cool.
like someone to make a supercut of it, and yeah.
Yep.
That would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so do you want to, shall we sing the song?
Sing the song.
Sing the song.
Twin flame.
You're my
Wild Wild West.